Chapter 564. Lin Yuan had already woken up early and was dressed neatly. It was almost the new year, and it was rare for Lin Yuan to wear spirit chi clothes with plenty of red accessories. Lin Yuan would occasionally wear brightly colored clothes. It made Lin Yuan look much younger than before. Genius was originally a little lazy in Lin Yuan's embrace, but after Lin Yuan put on the red vest that Wen Yu had specially made for Genius, Genius immediately became spirited. It wagged its three little tails and asked Lin Yuan in a childish voice, "Lin Yuan, does Genius look good in clothes?" When Lin Yuan heard Genius' question, he stretched out his hand and lovingly pinched Genius' little nose. "Little fellow, you have asked this question 10 times in just a short while. You little brat, you've asked the same question 10 times already." This vest that was suitable for Genius was something that Wen Yu had made by chance. Since Wen Yu had never seen Genius wearing clothes, she had given the red vest to Lin Yuan. Since Wen Yu had never seen Genius wearing clothes, she had given the red vest to Lin Yuan. This morning, Lin Yuan had given it to Genius on a whim and realized how much Genius liked these clothes that could be worn. When Genius heard Lin Yuan's praise, it felt as though it had eaten honey. Even though it had already heard Lin Yuan's answer over 10 times, Genius was still happily wagging its little tail. Lin Yuan smiled and asked, "Why don't you ask Wen Yu to make more clothes for Genius?" When Genius heard this, it immediately jumped into Lin Yuan's embrace with joy. Lin Yuan rubbed Genius' little head and couldn't help but lament that Genius was still as sensible as before. However, the current Lin Yuan was already different from the Lin Yuan who had barely survived in the Xia region's face store. Lin Yuan said to Genius in a serious tone. "Genius, just tell me if you like anything in the future." At that moment, he heard a soft knock on the door of the attic. Lin Yuan opened the door and saw Kai Cha standing at the entrance. Kai Cha bowed and said, "Young lord, the Moon Empress is asking for you to have a meal in the inner palace." "Young lord, the Moon Empress is asking for you to have a meal in the inner palace. In addition, young Blue Moon Envoy has already been invited by Shi Cha." When Lin Yuan heard the term, young Blue Moon Envoy, he still couldn't react. However, he quickly realized that Kai Cha was referring to Chu Ci. Lin Yuan nodded and said, "Then I will follow Aunt Kai Cha to the rear palace hall." Along the way, he could not help but ponder. Now that he had the golden lotus brocade pearls, the place in the spirit lock spatial zone that used to nurture the flower brocade pearls was empty. How should he use the empty space in the spirit lock spatial zone? Every inch of land in the spirit lock spatial zone was related to his accumulation of resources. Therefore, he really needed to carefully consider the use of the spirit lock spatial zone and could not make a careless decision. When they reached the entrance of the Radiant Moon Palace's inner hall, Kai Cha bowed and said, "Young lord, breakfast is prepared by the Moon Empress personally after waking up very early." When Lin Yuan heard Kai Cha's words, he suddenly thought of what he could make for his master during the new year. After the meal, Lin Yuan spoke to the Moon Empress before leaving. "Master, you don't have to prepare meals for the new year. I'll come over to cook in the morning." When the Moon Empress heard the first half of his sentence, she thought that he was going to take something from the Leaning Moon Mountain. The Moon Empress was about to say that the Radiant Moon Palace had everything and that she didn't need to prepare anything. However, before the Moon Empress could speak, she heard the second half of Lin Yuan's sentence. A gentle smile appeared on the Moon Empress' face. The Moon Empress looked at Lin Yuan lovingly and said a single word. "All right." Lin Yuan was quite confident in his culinary skills. Even though it was not as delicious as Lu Jie's, he felt that it was acceptable to eat the dishes he had cooked previously. However, after meeting Lu Jie, he no longer cooked for a few times. On the way back to the mansion, Lin Yuan contacted Ostrich Logistics. He was going to give away the elemental pearls from the group welfare auction and the elemental pearls that he had privately traded. After contacting Ostrich Logistics, Lin Yuan could feel Chu Ci's nervousness. Sensing her nervousness, Lin Yuan raised his eyebrows but did not say anything. because they were about to reach the return from faraway manor not far from the outskirts of the kingdom. The people waiting to see Chu Ci in the manor were probably even more nervous than she was. As soon as he arrived at the mansion's entrance, he saw Wen Yu and the purple-haired girl beside her. When Wen Yu saw Lin Yuan, she greeted, "Young master." The purple-red-haired young lady waved her hand at Lin Yuan and shouted, "Mr. Deep Mountain Elder Lin, Neng is back and can continue to be your exclusive courier." Lin Yuan knew that Neng was busy participating in the tournament organized by the Guild Alliance, so he asked, "Neng, how was your result in the tournament?" Neng's eyes immediately lit up when she heard Lin Yuan's words. Upon hearing Lin Yuan's words, Neng's eyes immediately lit up. "I used a hail of bullets to extinguish many people's pain. Neng is just a substitute. I don't have to participate in the rest of the competition this year, but I'll be a main player in next year's tournament." While speaking, Neng waved her fist as if to cheer herself up. When Lin Yuan saw Neng's expression, he cheerfully said, "Good luck." Neng had not been a courier for some time. However, she was no longer the very impatient and forgetful little girl who had done things when she returned to be Lin Yuan's exclusive courier. After Neng left, Lin Yuan found that Chu Ci and Wen Yu's hands were already holding each other's. Even if Chu Ci had known Wen Yu through the video, they had only just met. The two of them got along too fast. Could this be the legendary saying that friendship between women often only needed a second? Wen Yu was relieved when she saw Lin Yuan. During this period of time when Lin Yuan was not around, Wen Yu had been managing the mansion, especially when Lu Jia and Zhou Luo were unconscious. Nothing special had happened in the mansion during this period of time. The Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce's old rival, the Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce, had recently begun to suppress the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce in all aspects, requiring Listen to constantly deal with it. There was only the unexpected visitor to the mansion not long ago. When you said to Lin Yuan, "Young master, Wind Mist City's Gao family's core disciple, Gao Feng, who had a deal with you 7 days ago, came to look for you. You were unconscious at that time, so I said that you had something to do and went out to the mansion. In the next few days, young master's cell phone, which you left with the mother of Bloodbath, received a call from Gao Feng every day. I think Gao Feng should have something urgent to look for young master." Lin Yuan raised his brows. Gao Feng was actually looking for him in such a hurry. However, he did not know why Gao Feng was looking for him. Coincidentally, Lin Yuan also had plans to look for Gao Feng's help after the new year. He wanted to find some supreme-grade angelfish of bliss through Gao Feng's connections. The second was even better. End of this chapter. Chapter 565. This season was the most suitable for nurturing angelfish of bliss, which grew extremely fast in a cold environment. After growing into an adult, it would accelerate the speed at which it shed its fish coat in a warm environment. Now that the angelfish of bliss was nurtured to maturity, it would shed a layer of fish coat every once in a while when the weather was slightly warmer. Lin Yuan originally wanted to look for Gao Feng after the new year. He did not want to disturb Gao Feng during the new year and make him think about finding angelfish of bliss for him. Now that Gao Feng was looking for him, Lin Yuan could bring up his request to Gao Feng before the new year. The young angelfish of bliss were not as long as a finger, and they would only be the size of a palm even if they grew into adults. The artificial lake was already very large, and after the expansion, the area would increase by more than 2 times. No matter how many supreme-grade angelfish of bliss Gao Feng found, Lin Yuan could eat them all. When fish phase with colorful bodies like the angelfish of bliss swam together, they were several times more beautiful than when they swam alone. Lin Yuan nodded to indicate that he understood and said to Wen Yu. He said to Wen Yu, "I'll give Gao Feng a call later and ask what he needs." While Lin Yuan was speaking, he heard Lu Jie's voice behind him. "Young master, it's great that you're fine." After experiencing life and death with Lin Yuan in the dimensional rift, Lu Jie had used his body to fulfill the true intent of the shield on his retainer crest to help Lin Yuan block the fatal blow. Lu Jie's consciousness had become blurry. However, The enemies in the dimensional rift had still existed, and Lu Jia was naturally aware of how dangerous it had been. Lu Jia had been relieved when he saw Lin Yuan during the training, but now it seemed that he was especially at ease. Lin Yuan saw that Lu Jia was carrying many rare ingredients. Most of them were ingredients from some marine fish phase. Lu Jia had asked Lin Yuan what Chu Ci liked to eat and knew her taste buds. The mansion did not usually eat fish, so Lu Jia had obviously bought so many for Chu Ci. Lin Yuan was still a little worried about Lu Jia's insect queen. He asked, "Big brother Lu, you said that your insect queen had a problem with its mutation. How is it now?" Speaking of the insect queen, Lu Jia recalled his encounter from yesterday afternoon to this morning. He felt like he was in a dream. However, in this dreamlike half-day, Lu Jia had undergone a complete transformation. The insect queen has completed its mutation. The current insect queen has become very strong. Upon hearing Lu Jia's words, Lin Yuan raised his brows. Lu Jia had never been a flamboyant person. On the contrary, he was unusually down-to-earth and reserved. Now that Lu Jia said that the insect queen had become very strong, it was clear that the insect queen had become much stronger than before. Lin Yuan felt very happy for Lu Jia. "Congratulations, brother Lu." When Lu Jia heard Lin Yuan congratulate him, his heart felt both a little heavy and a little relaxed. Before Lu Jia fainted, he learned about his and the insect queen's injuries. There was only one possibility for him to be able to survive from his injuries at that time. That was, Lin Yuan had immediately treated him. Therefore, when Lu Jia woke up and found out that Lin Yuan had fallen unconscious, he blamed himself. She always thought that Lin Yuan had used too much spiritual power to heal her, causing him to be in a coma for 7 days due to his severe injuries. After seeing Lin Yuan, Lu Jia felt sincerely relieved. Lu Jia felt that he was now truly qualified to be the sturdiest shield by the youth's side as he ran forward. Lin Yuan keenly noticed the change in Lu Jia's expression. Lu Jia was clearly much more confident than before. Lu Jia looked at Chu Ci, who was holding Wen Yu's arm, and immediately said, "Miss Yu." Before Lu Jia could finish speaking, Chu Ci had already taken the lead and extended her hand toward him. "Big brother Lu, I've always heard Lin Yuan talk about you. I'm Chu Ci, you know." After saying that, Chu Ci winked at Lu Jia. When Lu Jia saw Chu Ci's extended hand, he put it over. His big hand wrapped around Chu Ci's small hand and shook it. "Chu Ci, I bought some fine scale star spot and fire-tailed snow base. I remember Lin Yuan said that you don't like spicy food. I'll make sweet and sour fish and honey-steamed fish for you." Chu Ci, who had been dependent on Lin Yuan since childhood, was exceptionally sensitive and good at feeling other people's emotions. Chu Ci had originally felt nervous about getting to know a new family of people. However, Chu Ci could now feel full of kindness from Wen Yu and Lu Jia's emotions toward her. Both of them looked at her with the doting gaze of an elder brother and elder sister toward their younger sister. This sudden feeling of having many people care about her made Chu Ci feel warm on one hand. On the other hand, there was a somewhat astringent feeling. Chu Ci had never known what Lin Yuan was busy with every day. Every time he called, he would keep asking about her recent situation as usual. Lin Yuan was clearly not a talkative person. However, whenever he was about to hang up the phone, he would always tell her about some small things in life that were good for her health. Lin Yuan had never said that he was working hard. Now that she saw everything in front of her, Chu Ci could imagine how hard Lin Yuan had been working. At that moment, the mother of Bloodbath, Endless Summer, and Hu Quan walked out of the mansion. They had obviously heard the conversation at the door. Endless Summer quickly stepped forward and placed her hand on Lin Yuan's shoulder to sense his condition. After confirming that Lin Yuan was fine, she walked up to Chu Ci and handed her a pink-purple diamond face storage box in the shape of a flower. After Chu Ci took the face storage box, Endless Summer said, "This is all the jewelry and clothes I've collected during this period. Here are all the jewelry and clothes I've collected during this period of time. Take a look and see if there's anything you like. Upon hearing Endless Summer's words, Lin Yuan hurriedly stepped forward. He snatched the diamond face storage box that Endless Summer had handed to Chu Ci and handed it back to her. Endless Summer, keep these things well. Don't give them to Chu Ci. Lin Yuan still remembered that Endless Summer had a period of rural non-mainstream and agricultural heavy metals before. During this period, Endless Summer had bought the most jewelry and spirit chi clothes. Chu Ci was not of age yet, and her aesthetic standards had not yet been set. If he were to learn these things from Chu Ci and Endless Summer, what would happen then? The mother of Bloodbath stood behind Endless Summer and looked at Lin Yuan's red eyes with flickering light. After seeing Lin Yuan, the mother of Bloodbath had a lot to say to him. However, it recalled Mystic Moon and the Moon Empress words and its dereliction of duty as a path protector. The mother of Bloodbath suddenly did not know what to say to Lin Yuan. First, end of this chapter. Chapter 567. Lin Yuan listened to Lu Jie talk about the opportunities and experiences he had encountered while he was unconscious. Lin Yuan patted Lu Jie's shoulder heavily to express his congratulations. Since Lu Jie had already contracted a sacred source life form, the sacred source life form in Lin Yuan's hands could be left to the mother of Bloodbath. After the meal, Lin Yuan was preparing to look for Zhou Luo to discuss some matters. When Lin Yuan returned to the mansion, the mother of Bloodbath's cell phone suddenly rang. Lin Yuan looked down and realized that the caller was none other than Gao Feng. Lin Yuan raised his brows and picked up the phone. Gao Feng said straightforwardly on the other end of the phone. "Brother, I want to make a deal with you." Lin Yuan was slightly startled when he heard Gao Feng's words. Gao Feng was usually very forthright with his words. He always exuded the demeanor of an artistic youth, appearing to be abnormally free and easy. But now, Gao Feng's words were unusually serious. Lin Yuan knew that Gao Feng really had something very important to tell him. However, since Gao Feng said that he wanted to discuss business with him seriously, Lin Yuan became serious and asked. "Gao Feng, are you representing the Gao family to discuss business with me, or are you discussing business with me yourself?" When Gao Feng heard Lin Yuan's words, he fell silent for a moment. Then, Gao Feng asked seriously. "Is there any difference between the Gao family discussing business with you and me discussing business with you?" Lin Yuan replied. "If the Gao family wants to discuss business with me, I can naturally refuse. I will also try my best to get the most benefits. If you want to talk business with me personally, I'll agree if I can do it. Just treat it as a favor for a friend." When Gao Feng heard that, he felt a surge of warmth in his heart. "Brother, it's me personally who wants to discuss business with you. It's just that this favor might be a little difficult to help. If you think it's a lot of effort, just reject me directly." During this time, Gao Feng had also found plenty of people apart from Lin Yuan. He had used almost all of his interpersonal relationships. However, he didn't receive any actual help. Upon hearing Gao Feng's words, Lin Yuan could roughly guess why Gao Feng was looking for him. Gao Feng had traded completely jade-textured wood and high-quality bronze phase from him. Therefore, even if Gao Feng avoided these two things, he still couldn't avoid being a creation master. As expected, Gao Feng continued to speak. "Brother, I wonder if you can lend me some of your creation master resources. Just name the price." As soon as Lin Yuan heard that, he knew he had guessed correctly. However, Lin Yuan's guess was slightly off. Gao Feng didn't want a specific item, but creation master resources. Lin Yuan was ultimately different from regular creation masters. Lin Yuan's current weakness was that he would not be able to enhance a high-grade Fey even if he was beaten to death. Therefore, as long as his spirit chi professional rank did not increase, he would not have any way to nurture high-grade Feys. Enhancing high-grade Feys was Lin Yuan's most obvious shortcoming. Although he had used a lot of good things that only high-class creation masters could create, he did not have any creation master resources. In the past, he had always been responsible for all of the Sky City's creation master's labor. Gao Feng wanted to borrow Creation Master resources, but Lin Yuan couldn't possibly package himself up and mail him to Gao Feng or introduce his master, the Moon Empress, to Gao Feng, right? He was afraid that even if he introduced them, Gao Feng would not dare to invite them no matter what. All of a sudden, Lin Yuan had a thought that he needed to recruit Creation Masters. However, Lin Yuan had a requirement for the Creation Masters he recruited. Ordinary Creation Masters would not do. They had to be high-class Creation Masters. Only high-class Creation Masters could make up for Lin Yuan's current lack of Creation Master abilities. Creation Masters were the most pampered group of people in the entire Radiance Federation and even the entire Spirit Chi professional community. Therefore, if Lin Yuan wanted to recruit a high-class Creation Master, he still needed to make a lot of plans. Even though Lin Yuan couldn't directly give Gao Feng Creation Master resources, he still asked. What kind of Creation Master resources do you need? Upon hearing Lin Yuan's question, Gao Feng spoke as though he was pouring out his grievances to a friend. Brother, haven't you heard that this active period of the dimensional rift is different from the past? Upon hearing that, Lin Yuan replied. I'm not too sure about what happened during this period. Gao Feng felt it was a little strange that Lin Yuan didn't even know about this. Even if Lin Yuan had always been in the royal capital and not by the sea, he should also know about this major event that made many factions speechless and tearful. During this active period of the dimensional rift, the number of dimensional rifts is several times greater than usual. Among them, the water world dimensional rifts in the sea region are the most numerous. When the source-type items are taken out from the dimensional rifts, they will release a large amount of spirit chi before they close. To the phase on land, the large amount of spirit chi released from these dimensional rifts is a good thing. But it isn't all good for the phase in the sea region. Brother, I could still find the young elemental shellfish that you wanted previously. But now, even if my father appears, he won't be able to find them. The large amount of spirit chi released by these water world dimensional rifts has allowed all the elemental shellfish in the deep sea to evolve into the damn exploding pearl shellfish. Lin Yuan couldn't help but be dumbfounded. At this moment, Lin Yuan seemed to suddenly understand why Master Duanli and Wang Fuxiang had avoided choosing the Heavenly Maiden grade elemental pearls during the group welfare auction. The dense spirit chi in the sea had allowed most of the elemental shellfish to evolve into exploding pearl shellfish. As a result, it would be impossible to find young elemental shellfish in the deep sea for a long period of time. Most factions nurtured the elemental shellfish to nurture foundational resources like the island whale. This caused the aquamarine elemental shellfish to be the elemental shellfish with the most attributes among all the elemental shellfish. The water-type elemental pearls consumed the most among all the elemental pearls. However, at a time like this, the rarer something was, the more valuable it was. It was understandable that the water-type elemental pearls had the lowest value among the elemental pearls. However, this was great news for Lin Yuan. How many water-type elemental pearls could he have? Most of the water elemental pearls he had were used to nurture the floating island whale. The other elemental pearls in Lin Yuan's possession had increased in value. At that moment, Gao Feng spoke again. I'm discussing with my father. I want to establish a rising faction and try my luck. That's why I'm building a marine fae breeding base. Brother, I won't hide it from you. I'm borrowing Creation Master resources this time because I want your Creation Master to help me nurture some insect pattern coral jade. First update, asking for monthly votes and recommendation votes. A new plot is about to begin. Hurry up. End of this chapter. Chapter 568. The Gao family has been developing deep-sea resources. During this period of time, the water world dimensional rift has released a large amount of spirit chi, causing many of the deep-sea faes to be abnormally active. This allowed the Gao family to capture plenty of production-type deep-sea faes. These newly captured large-scale production deep-sea faes are making the Gao family's creation masters crazy busy. But my marine fae breeding base has just been built, and the Gao family's creation masters are all busy. As a result, I am in a situation where I don't have any creation masters to use. Gao Feng's words were abnormally straightforward and didn't hide anything from Lin Yuan. If he built a marine fey breeding base to artificially nurture those delicate marine feys in the sea, the marine feys might be nurtured to death if he wasn't careful. The death of one marine fey meant that Gao Feng's breeding had a problem, and it was likely that a large number of marine feys would die, causing Gao Feng to lose everything. The coral jade that Gao Feng needed to be nurtured by the creation masters was made of coral jade texture. When the creation masters used high-purity spirit qi to nurture the jade-transformed coral, the polyps that made up the coral would become active and produce fine insect patterns inside the coral jade. By grinding the insect patterns and sprinkling them into the marine fey breeding base's pool, it would create a deep-sea environment. Furthermore, once the insect patterns were eaten by the marine feys, it could accelerate their growth and allow them to be in a healthy state. The insect patterns could also significantly help and promote the marine phase breeding. Gao Feng wanted to use the insect patterns to nurture some marine feys that could be used as a mother for his marine fey breeding base. Lin Yuan pondered for a moment and said, "I can help you with the insect patterns." Gao Feng's face bloomed with joy, but he was a little embarrassed. On the other side of the phone, Gao Feng's face bloomed with joy. However, Gao Feng was a little embarrassed as he whispered. Lin Yuan's spirit lock spatial zone had already poured out a space, and he had been thinking about how to use it. Lin Yuan's spirit lock spatial zone had already poured out a piece of space, and he had been thinking about how to use it. Lin Yuan's spirit lock spatial zone could only nurture the insect patterns, but it couldn't nurture the corals into ordinary coral jade. However, his spirit lock spatial zone could nurture coral jade with insect patterns, but there was no way to nurture corals into ordinary coral jade. Even with the spirit lock spatial zone, it would take a very long time to nurture the corals into ordinary coral jade. The formation of coral jade required the corals to be deposited in the deep sea for hundreds of thousands of years and nourished by the spiritual qi of heaven and earth. It was a mineral that could only be found at the bottom of the sea. Lin Yuan could buy it if he wanted to. However, the Gao family had been developing deep-sea resources, so they should have plenty of ordinary coral jades. As long as you can provide me with ordinary coral jade raw materials, I can provide you with 300 pounds of coral jade with insect patterns every 10 days. When Gao Feng heard Lin Yuan's words, his body started to cough violently. His lips trembled as he spoke. 300 pounds? Brother, I have plenty of coral jades. But 150 kilograms of worm-patterned coral jade is simply too much. Even if you can provide it for me, I can't afford it. Upon hearing that, Lin Yuan asked with a thought. This marine fey breeding base was built by you. Since I can provide you with the creation master resources that you need, I will give it to you. Then why don't you think about building a bigger marine fey breeding base? When Gao Feng heard Lin Yuan's words, his eyes flickered as he vaguely understood Lin Yuan's intention. He said that he couldn't afford 150 kilograms of coral jade with insect patterns, but Lin Yuan still said that he wanted to provide him resources. It meant that Lin Yuan wanted to use the method of becoming a shareholder during the transaction to provide him with creation master resources. Gao Feng had always been very resistant to this method of becoming a shareholder. If someone became a shareholder, it would mean that a portion of the marine fey breeding base would already belong to someone else. When Gao Feng first called Lin Yuan had expressed the intention of becoming a shareholder. Even if Gao Feng treated Lin Yuan as a friend, Gao Feng wouldn't have hesitated to reject. However, it was different now, and Gao Feng was currently in the most difficult situation. Lin Yuan didn't hesitate to provide help to Gao Feng and poured in a huge amount of creation master resources that Gao Feng didn't expect. This would allow Gao Feng to establish a rising faction that would far exceed his expectations. Gao Feng muttered for a long time and gritted his teeth after making a decision. Brother, if you can provide me with 150 kilograms of coral jade with insect patterns every 10 days, you don't need to care about anything else in the marine fey breeding base. We will split the shares 50-50. Lin Yuan was shocked by Gao Feng's 50-50 split. Coral jade with insect patterns was something that couldn't form in the deep sea. Even though the spirit chi concentration in the deep sea was very high, it still couldn't reach the conditions for the coral jade to produce insect patterns. It could only be nurtured by high-class creation masters with pure spirit chi. However, the coral jade with insect patterns had very little effect and could only be considered a spiritual ingredient that was very useful for aquatic phase. Only when Gao Feng was preparing to establish a marine fae breeding base would there be such a huge demand. It could be said that providing 150 kilograms of coral jade with insect patterns every 10 days was equivalent to providing Gao Feng with high-class creation master resources. Lin Yuan didn't expect that these creation master resources would actually be equivalent to 50% of the shares in Gao Feng's eyes. With 50% of the shares, it was the same as Lin Yuan becoming the owner of the marine fae breeding base together with Gao Feng. It was reasonable to say that Gao Feng was establishing a rising faction, and it was impossible for him to split the control of a rising faction equally with others. However, Gao Feng chose to split the shares equally with Lin Yuan. Lin Yuan could see Gao Feng's sincerity in cooperating. Lin Yuan also immediately responded to Gao Feng's sincerity. Apart from the coral jade with insect patterns, you will also need pure elemental energy when you are nurturing marine faes in large quantities. I have plenty of heavenly maiden-grade elemental pearls. If you need them, you can give them to me. Upon hearing that, Gao Feng suddenly felt relieved. Previously, Gao Feng was a little impulsive when he gave Lin Yuan 50% of the shares. Now, Gao Feng suddenly felt abnormally at ease working with Lin Yuan. There were plenty of rising factions that nurtured marine faes, and the competition between them was also very intense. The injection of high-quality creation master resources could fundamentally increase the competitiveness of a rising faction that relied on nurturing marine faes. Gao Feng had established a rising faction and could use the Gao family's massive resources in the deep sea. However, Gao Feng obviously wouldn't rely on the Gao family for everything. Otherwise, it would be meaningless for him to establish a rising faction. Chapter 2 Sad Face End of this chapter. Chapter 569. Gao Feng was too embarrassed to mention the heavenly maiden-grade elemental pearls to Lin Yuan. Gao Feng knew that Lin Yuan had obtained a few young elemental shellfish from him and should have elemental pearls on hand. However, now that a large number of elemental shellfish had evolved into exploding pearl shellfish, elemental pearls were too precious. Gao Feng planned to secretly think of a way to get some from the Gao family. But now, Lin Yuan had poured in resources like heavenly maiden-grade elemental pearls. This made Gao Feng, who was born in the richest Gao family in Wind Mist City, suddenly feel that he had found someone to rely on. This was the first time Gao Feng had felt this. However, Gao Feng felt that it was really cool. Brother, if you can provide me with resources like heavenly maiden-grade elemental pearls, I'll be very grateful to you. For every heavenly maiden-grade elemental pearl you give me, I'll charge it at the current market price. It's just that after giving you 50% of the shares, I really can't give you any more shares. But I can give you 10% of the profits from the shares. What do you think, brother? Lin Yuan didn't reject Gao Feng's suggestion. Right now, he and Gao Feng were discussing a business deal, or rather, a collaboration to develop a new power together. Gao Feng took out the Gao family's rich resources and business channels in the deep sea. Meanwhile, Lin Yuan took out creation master resources. Lin Yuan would still help Gao Feng if he had to. However, when discussing business, Lin Yuan would not reject the benefits that he deserved. From Gao Feng's words, Lin Yuan could tell that Gao Feng hoped to obtain the dominance of the marine fae breeding base. Not only did Lin Yuan not object to this, but he also agreed with it. Anyway, he did not have the energy and time to develop this marine fae breeding base with Gao Feng. The best way for Lin Yuan was to wait for the dividends. Therefore, Lin Yuan said straightforwardly, "Even if I get 50% of the shares, I will only participate in the dividends. I will not manage it. Therefore, in the future, Brother Gao's new forces will need to be developed by you." When Gao Feng heard Lin Yuan's words, he felt that Lin Yuan was simply too particular. When he expressed his intention to discuss business with Lin Yuan immediately responded. He couldn't pretend to be ignorant like the others. Even though he was discussing business with Lin Yuan, Gao Feng felt very relaxed. After Lin Yuan and Gao Feng finalized the cooperation, Gao Feng became ordinary friends. He and Gao Feng had become ordinary friends because of the 2 deals they had made. Now, this marine fei breeding base made him and Gao Feng into a partnership. This meant that Lin Yuan could easily obtain the Gao family's deep-sea resources through Gao Feng's relationship, which was related to his own interests. After negotiating with Gao Feng, Lin Yuan didn't forget to talk about himself. "Brother Gao, can you get a top-grade angelfish of bliss from your side?" Brother of Gao smiled and said, "Brother, it's not easy to get a top-grade angelfish of bliss. If you had asked me to help you get a top-grade angelfish of bliss a month ago, I might have recommended you to try your luck at the veteran faction, the Aquarium of Bliss. But it just so happened that when the spirit chi on the surface of the sea increased a while ago, a school of angelfish of bliss floated to the surface of the deep sea that our Gao family developed and was caught. Spirit chi of a fairy fish, to say, there, but to say, it to say to, fairy to, it, to say, to, Gao. Our Gao family is also planning to nurture this batch of fairy king fish. Brother, if you want, I can get you at least 20 of them, Yi Futian said with a smile. It's a pity that when we were capturing these angelfish of bliss, one of the best female angelfish of bliss had a belly full of fish eggs, so it fought back fiercely and suffered serious injuries. The price to treat this injured female fairy king fish was too high, and we couldn't guarantee the survival of the eggs, so we gave up. At this point, Gao Feng sighed. What a pity. Lin Yuan heard Gao Feng's words and thought. The 20 supreme-grade angelfish of bliss that had shed their fish coats would be enough for the daily consumption of the spiritual type phase in the manor. It was a pity that Lin Yuan wanted to rear the fairy king fish of fairy king fish in the expanded artificial lake. For Lin Yuan's goal, 20 fairy king fish of fairy king fish of fairy king fish were not enough. Even if the Gao family brought all 50 fairy king fish of fairy king fish, it was still far from enough. However, he was rather interested in the injured female fairy fish that Gao Feng had mentioned. He had the spirit pool in his spirit lock spatial zone and the 3 mountain river eternal life carp's exclusive skill, place of life. Lin Yuan had absolute confidence in saving this supreme-grade angelfish of bliss and allowing the eggs in its stomach to hatch smoothly. This wasn't Lin Yuan's first time being a midwife. He had helped to deliver the spirit siphon goldfish that he had traded with Zhou Jiesin in the spirit pool. Brother Gao, I'll have to trouble you to get me 20 top-grade angelfish of bliss, including that injured female fish. Upon hearing Lin Yuan's words, Gao Feng knew that Lin Yuan wanted to try to save this female fish, so he immediately agreed. Lin Yuan said before hanging up the phone. It just so happens that you can send me some ordinary coral jade before the new year. I'll start cultivating them first. Every time the spirit lock spatial zone was empty, there would be a huge loss. Therefore, the spirit lock spatial zone had to be used as soon as possible. After hanging up the phone, Lin Yuan realized that he had unknowingly opened up another big stall. It could be considered another physical industry apart from the listening Heron Chamber of Commerce. When Lin Yuan had called him, Zhou Luo had been sitting beside Lin Yuan and listening to him finish the call. Now that Lin Yuan had hung up, Zhou Luo asked. Young master, what business do you have with me? Lin Yuan looked at Zhou Luo and said. Uncle Zhou, how's the progress of your dark snake dragon lizard? Zhou Luo scratched the back of his head. Young master, I've only just formed a contract with the dark snake Japalura. I haven't had the time to train it yet. The dark snake Japalura is still the same as when you gave it to me. Zhou Luo didn't mean that he didn't have the time to nurture it. It was just that Zhou Luo was too embarrassed to take out the resources needed to cultivate the dark snake Japalura. It was just that it was too shameful to say such things out loud. Lin Yuan heaved a sigh of relief. Fortunately, Zhou Luo did not immediately start cultivating the dark snake Japalura after obtaining it. If Zhou Luo were to immediately nurture the dark snake dragon lizard and upgrade it from bronze to silver, the dark snake dragon lizard would not be able to survive. Lin Yuan really didn't know how he should pour resources into Zhou Luo. More for the Twilight Melodies. Seeking recommendation votes and monthly votes. End of this chapter. Chapter 570. Brother Zhou, since you haven't nurtured the dark snake Japalura and only signed a contract with it, Zhou Weiqing said. Why don't you leave your dark snake Japalura with me for now? I'll help you upgrade its grade. When Zhou Luo heard Lin Yuan's words, his eyes nearly popped out. Zhou Luo did not know Lin Yuan's foundation like the others, but what Lin Yuan meant was that he wanted to upgrade the dark snake dragon lizard to legend. Regardless of whether it was at bronze or silver, the dark snake dragon lizard's quality had been upgraded to legendary quality. These were all things that Zhou Luo could only dream of in his current situation. Young master, before Zhou Luo could finish his sentence, Lin Yuan continued. I remember that Brother Zhou still has an empty willpower rune. Brother Zhou, show me your third willpower rune. At that time, Big Brother Zhou will also evolve the second and third phase into fantasy breeds. Upon hearing Lin Yuan's words, Zhou Luo's face was immediately filled with joy. Zhou Luo understood that his performance in the dimensional rift outside Indigo Azure City had made Lin Yuan truly regard him as one of them. He was now ready to pour a lot of resources into himself to increase his strength. Zhou Luo had long been loyal to Lin Yuan, and receiving Lin Yuan's praise was undoubtedly his best opportunity. Zhou Luo naturally had to hold on tight. Lin Yuan smacked his lips when he sensed the third willpower rune that Zhou Luo had comprehended. The willpower rune that Zhou Luo comprehended had a sticky, earthy quality to it. It was considered a rather versatile willpower rune and was very suitable for defense-type phase. During these 2 days, Lin Yuan did not work as hard as usual. Instead, he slowed down and lived a leisurely life for 2 days. After experiencing life and death, he felt the lively atmosphere in the Radiance Federation that was about to celebrate the new year. He felt that the whole world was abnormally beautiful. During the past 2 days, everyone in the manor would go shopping on the streets. As a result, the New Year's goods that were stored in the face storage boxes were enough to last until next year's. Chu Ci had also pulled Lin Yuan to paste many fortune characters in the mansion. Even the red sandalwood longevity fish tank had 2 red paper flowers that said, more than every year. These ordinary paper flowers and fortune characters did not affect the overall beauty of the house. Instead, they made the house more cozy. Less than half a day after Lin Yuan and Gao Feng had come to an agreement, Gao Feng had arrived. Ostrich Logistics had delivered 1,500 caddies of ordinary coral jade in a face storage box. As for the 19 angelfish of bliss and the severely injured female angelfish of bliss, Gao Feng had arranged for them to be sent over as well. When the 19 supreme grade angelfish of bliss were sent over, Lin Yuan's eyes lit up. The 19 supreme grade angelfish of bliss were all covered in 5 different colors. Their tails and fins were unusually thin, like a thin layer of silver yarn. However, when the angelfish of bliss began to swim, its fins and tail would flicker with 6 colored rays of light. It was an exceptionally enchanting sight. When Lin Yuan looked at the angelfish of bliss's posture, he felt as though he was looking at a hazy young lady draped in a veil. Looking at it, it really did give him a sense of bliss. He raised these 19 supreme grade angelfish of bliss in the artificial lake. Even though the current environment of the artificial lake was different from the original living environment of the angelfish of bliss, due to the Mountain River Eternal Life Carp's exclusive skill, Place of Life, the angelfish of bliss was able to survive. These angelfish of bliss were abnormally comfortable in the artificial lake and didn't show any signs of discomfort. As for the dying female supreme grade angelfish of bliss, Lin Yuan raised it in the spirit pool. This female supreme grade angelfish of bliss's injuries were truly too severe. It was no wonder why the Gao family had decided to give up on this female supreme grade angelfish of bliss and didn't put in any effort to treat it. Lin Yuan saw that the female supreme-grade angelfish of Bliss's fins and tail were almost ground away. Due to the intense struggle when it was being caught, there were plenty of giant cracks on its body. These giant cracks were already faintly rotting. However, after 2 days of nourishment from the spirit pool's dense spirit qi, a thin layer of new flesh had already grown out from the rotting cracks. Lin Yuan had already instructed the spirit-attracting ichthyosaur, Black. He had asked Black to take care of this dying female supreme-grade angelfish of bliss. Otherwise, Lin Yuan was afraid that the carcinoma fei, the sea burial lotus flower, would make a move on this female supreme-grade angelfish of bliss. After 2 days of recuperation, this female supreme-grade angelfish of bliss now had the strength to occasionally feed on the butterfly shell flowers at the bottom of the spirit pool. Lin Yuan just needed to wait for this female supreme-grade angelfish of bliss to fully recover and expel its eggs in the spirit pool. Unlike Lin Yuan's 2 days of leisure, Hu Quan had been working overtime for the past 2 days. In the dead of night, he would use his exquisite hands to create artistic sparks. Hu Quan wasn't just working overtime for these 2 days. Ever since the forest had left Indigo Azure City, Hu Quan had never stopped working overtime. When Yu naturally didn't approve of Hu Quan working overtime late into the night. However, she didn't expect Hu Quan to secretly contract a special fei, the Essence Qi Sloth. The Essence Qi Sloth would normally be sleeping and accumulating Essence Qi. These Essence Qi Sloths relied on sleeping to accumulate Essence Qi. When the Essence Qi Sloth used its abilities, it would be transmitted to the contractor. Due to the difference in spiritual energy, the number of contracted feis would also be different. However, the quantity was also limited. In order to maximize their combat power, combat-class spirit qi professionals needed to think carefully before contracting a fei. As a Class 5 spirit craftsman, Hu Quan decided to contract a Essence Qi Sloth that helped him sleep just to be able to work overtime better. It was really a little willful. When you couldn't do anything about the willful Hu Quan. Hu Quan would no longer affect his body if he didn't sleep, and when you couldn't force him to lie on the bed. Therefore, when you could only go with Hu Quan. Even when you, who had grown up in the Radiant Moon Palace and had high horizons, admired Hu Quan from the bottom of her heart. At this moment, he was convinced by Hu Quan from the bottom of his heart and was willing to sincerely call him the Liver Emperor. Hu Quan had worked overtime for half a month and had perfectly realized many of Lin Yuan's previous ideas and designs with his Class 5 spirit craftsman ability. In particular, Hu Quan had already made what was needed for the design of the rooms in Lin Yuan's Star Web private territory. Lin Yuan thought to himself as he looked at the things Hu Quan had created. He had bought his Star Web faction territory a long time ago, but it had been idle and had not been put into use. Now that everything was ready, the functions of his Star Web faction could be announced. However, Lin Yuan still had a lot of things to do during the new year. Moreover, Lin Yuan still needed to scan the things Hu Quan had made into Star Web for some arrangements. Therefore, after discussing with everyone, Lin Yuan set the time to announce the functions of the Star Web faction territory on the 3rd day after the new year. Lin Yuan, Wen Yu, Chu Xi, Lu Jia, the mother of Bloodbath, and Endless Summer were sitting on the water rhinoceros leather sofa and watching the Guild Alliance's S-Tournament quarterfinals. As a Radiance 100 sequence member, Lu Jia told Chu Xi about the abilities and contracted phase of every 100 sequence member that appeared on the battlefield. As a member of the Radiance 100 sequence, Lu Jia naturally knew things that could not be found on Star Web. Lu Jia's explanation was an eye-opener for Chu Xi. At that moment, Lin Yuan suddenly felt a throbbing feeling coming from the depths of his soul. He heard an unusually clear and ethereal voice ringing in the depths of his soul. "My lord." Upon hearing this voice coming from the depths of his soul, Lin Yuan went straight to his room. This was because the Sacred Source Life Form, the Grace Queen, and the Sacred Source Life Form, the Enforcement Sword, had completed their fusion. Lin Yuan urged the power in the depths of his soul. He summoned the new Sacred Source Life Form formed by the fusion of the 2 Sacred Source Life Forms in his marrow contract. Chapter 571. After summoning his sacred source life form, the girl in the knee-length dress holding a sacred sword appeared in front of him. Her eyes were closed, and her eyes were closed. The girl's tightly shut eyes trembled slightly. Just as the girl was about to open her eyes, an aura burst forth with her as the center. As his contracted sacred source life form, the aura released by Lin Yuan's sacred source life form did not affect him at all. Therefore, Lin Yuan did not feel anything special about this aura. However, the mother of Bloodbath and Endless Summer, who were sitting on the water rhinoceros leather sofa and watching the quarterfinals of the S tournament with everyone else, were shocked. As Myth Breed Phase, the mother of Bloodbath and Endless Summer had comprehended law runes. The aura from Lin Yuan's room made the mother of Bloodbath and Endless Summer feel as though the law runes they had comprehended had become ornaments for others to play with. They were waiting to be picked and played with. This feeling made the mother of Bloodbath and Endless Summer look at each other in shock. Both of them could see the shock in each other's eyes. When Lu Jie felt this aura, he felt the depths of his soul tremble. Since Lu Jie possessed a sacred source life form, the owner of a sacred source life form would be able to sense the aura of a sacred source life form. Lu Jie immediately knew that this aura should be the first cry of Lin Yuan's sacred source life form completing the contract. Lu Jie, who had contracted a sacred source life form, and the mother of Bloodbath and Endless Summer had comprehended law runes, could feel the aura from Lin Yuan's room the most clearly. Chu Ci, who had also comprehended a willpower rune, could also faintly feel the aura from Lin Yuan's room that made her willpower rune a little abnormal. Chu Ci immediately got up and wanted to knock on Lin Yuan's door to see what was going on inside. However, Chu Ci was stopped by the mother of Bloodbath as soon as she got up and heard it say. The mother of Bloodbath said, "Chu Ci, your brother is a creation master. Lin Yuan must have gone to work when he returned to his room." After the previous incident, not only the mother of Bloodbath, but even Endless Summer was also on high alert at all times. Therefore, if one wanted to encounter danger in the mansion, they would have to have a creation breed fae that was extremely good at hiding to sneak in. Otherwise, with a fae like Endless Summer and a suzerain/myth 3 fae that was good at scouting with the Enlightenment law rune, it was impossible for a target to sneak into the mansion without being discovered. The mother of Bloodbath was also a little curious as to why Lin Yuan's room would emit such an aura. However, the mother of Bloodbath understood that when a creation master was working, no matter what happened, it should not disturb him. Upon hearing the mother of Bloodbath's words, Chu Ci immediately realized that she had been too concerned. If Lin Yuan was doing the work of a creation master, Lin Yuan's knocking might cause him to be distracted and cause him to make mistakes. Although she continued to sit on the water rhinoceros leather sofa and watch the S tournament duels, she would look at Lin Yuan's room door from time to time, looking a little absent-minded. Upon seeing this, the corners of Wen Yu's mouth curled up. When she recalled how Lin Yuan always talked about Chu Ci, she could not help but sigh at their sibling relationship. Lin Yuan looked at his contracted sacred source life form and felt its first cry. Lin Yuan knew that he could finally use the new sacred source life form formed by the fusion of the Grace Queen and the Sword of Punishment. Lin Yuan used Morbius True Data to check his sacred source life form's attributes. Sacred source name, Sacred Sword Wielding Queen, Sacred Source Species, Source Family, Sacred Source Species, Sacred Source Star, 0 stars, Sacred Source Type, : Lin Yuan finally knew the name of his sacred source life form. However, he realized that the sacred source life form's data was completely different from ordinary phase. This was because sacred source life forms were no longer categorized according to normal, elite, bronze, silver, gold, and platinum. Their quality was no longer divided into normal, elite, flawless, epic, and legendary. Under true data, sacred source life forms were categorized by star ranks. With the principle of understanding things he did not understand, Lin Yuan looked at the time. He realized that it was only 1:00 in the evening, so he called his master, the Moon Empress. The phone only rang a few times before the Moon Empress picked it up. Lin Yuan asked the question that he did not understand. When the Moon Empress heard Lin Yuan's question, she suddenly felt gratified. As a teacher, in addition to his usual question and answer practice, he finally had a chance to answer questions and dispel doubts. However, after a brief moment of gratification, the Moon Empress felt that she was neglecting her duties as a teacher. She already knew that Lin Yuan had contracted a sacred source life form, but during the question and answer exercise, she had mainly talked about sacred source life form's contract knowledge. She had forgotten to introduce the difference between sacred source life forms, ordinary phase, and source-type life forms. The Moon Empress explained in detail to Lin Yuan. You're right. Every sacred source life form has a unique and irreplaceable function. There is no absolute difference between functions, so sacred source life forms are no longer categorized by grade or quality. At the same time, because sacred source life forms do not require the contractor to fuse with a willpower rune, sacred source life forms are no longer categorized as fantasy breed, myth breed, or creation breed like ordinary phase and source-type life forms. Sacred source life forms have their own unique categorization. From 1 star to 12 star, there are a total of 12 grades, also known as the Sacred Source 12 stars. However, the Sacred Source life form star rank does not represent the Sacred Source life form's strength, but the degree of development of the Sacred Source life form's functions. When a Sacred Source life form is newly contracted, it will have a certain function. Every time the Sacred Source life form increases by 3 star, it will undergo a transformation and unlock one of its functions. According to the star rank, the sporadic to 3-star Sacred Source life forms are known as the infant stage. The 4-star to 6-star Sacred Source life forms are known as the growth stage. The 7-star to 9-star Sacred Source life forms are known as the mature stage. The 10-star to 12-star Sacred Source life forms are known as the complete stage. After listening to the Moon Empress explanation, Lin Yuan immediately understood what was going on with the Sacred Source life form's categorization. This made Lin Yuan even more aware of the importance of knowledge. A thought suddenly appeared in Lin Yuan's mind: knowledge is power. The moment this thought appeared in Lin Yuan's mind, he felt that the willpower of knowledge in his mind seemed to have increased a little. Chapter 572. Just as Lin Yuan thought he was about to condense the knowledge-related willpower rune, something unexpected happened. However, something unexpected happened. This knowledge willpower rune that was related to knowledge did not condense as smoothly as Lin Yuan had expected. Instead, it was forcefully stuck there. If he had only been one layer away from comprehending the knowledge-related willpower rune, he would have broken a hole in it. He had already smashed a hole in the membrane and was about to drill out of it when he was caught by the membrane. This feeling of being stuck between a rock and a hard place, as if he was suspended in the air, made him rather depressed. For the first time, Lin Yuan felt that it was very difficult to comprehend a willpower rune. However, since he had a little more understanding of the knowledge-related willpower rune, he was one step closer to truly comprehending it. Unlike Lin Yuan's depression, the Moon Empress was abnormally happy after hanging up the phone. At that moment, Mystic Moon walked into the inner palace and spoke softly to the Moon Empress. Moon Empress, I have settled the matter that you asked me to do. I can head to the Divine Wood Federation's Agon continent at any time and help your highness choose a suitable location to build the spatial tunnel. When the Moon Empress heard that, she placed the teacup on the jade table. Mystic Moon, I remember that your Sacred Source life form is stuck at 8-star and is still a step away from 9-star. This time, Zishi's main body returned from the outer realm and brought you something. It might be able to help your Sacred Source life form break through from 8-star to 9-star and gain an additional function. Zishi's main body will arrive in a few days. It won't be too late to leave after you have a good new year and try to break through to 9-star. Mystic Moon still had that clear expression on his face, but his relaxed brows revealed the excitement in his heart. If I can really raise the Sacred Source life form star class to 9-star, and the Sacred Source life form gains a new function, the entire star web will undergo a major update. The Moon Empress nodded. The star web is a product of the combined functions of 3 Sacred Source life forms. As far as I know, Space Old Rao's Sacred Source life form, hollow crystal mother shellfish, has broken through not long ago. It seems like the first Radiance 100 sequence test on the star web will be even more exciting. After hanging up the phone, he shook his head to get rid of the gloomy feeling in his mind. Then, he checked the abilities of the sacred sword-wielding queen. Function frowny face princess form, princess's skirt, can extract the willpower rune from dead phase or source-type items. He also carved the will of the dead fantasy breed phase willpower rune or the myth breed phase law crystal onto the princess skirt. At the same time, the law crystal that was extracted would turn into a law crystal that contained pure law power. Holy sword form, blade of the holy sword, the blade of the sword pierces through the hem of the skirt and consumes the spiritual energy in the body to release the same type of rules and willpower accumulated in the skirt. Lin Yuan almost bit his tongue off after taking a look. His sacred source life form was indeed a fusion of two sacred source life forms. Not only did it have two forms, but each form also had a function. In Lin Yuan's opinion, having one function in each of the two forms was no different from having two functions. It seemed like the two functions in the two forms could be interlinked. However, for the sacred sword form's blade to display its effect, it had to rely on the princess form's ability and the will engraved on the princess's skirt. Obviously, the sacred sword form's ability could not be used without the support of the princess form's skirt. From this aspect, it could be seen that the Grace Queen had played a leading role in the fusion of the Grace Queen and the sacred source life form, the Sword of Enforcement. But no matter what, it was double the joy for Lin Yuan. Among the two abilities, the princess form's ability made Lin Yuan feel that after possessing the sacred source life form, the sacred sword embracing princess, he possessed the ability that only Class 5 creation masters could possess. It is able to cultivate pure rule force. However, Class 5 creation masters used a variety of rare spiritual ingredients, including law runes, to create spirit liquids that contained the power of law. Lin Yuan relied on the sacred sword-wielding queen's skirt form's ability. Different law crystals were like different flavors of beverages. After removing the taste, the essence of the beverage was water. The princess's skirt extracted the law crystal's special law energy, turning it into a law crystal that contained only the power of law. However, Lin Yuan was unable to quickly increase the phase grade. With the sacred source life form, the sacred sword embracing queen, Lin Yuan's creation master abilities had reached the standard of a Class 5 creation master. It was different from the law crystals that would automatically be produced after the death of a myth breed fae. After the death of a fantasy breed fae, if its body was intact, the willpower rune would continue to remain in its body. However, if the fantasy breed fae's body was split into various spiritual ingredients. In the process of splitting into spiritual ingredients, the willpower rune remaining in the fantasy breed fae's body would dissipate. Even a Class 5 creation master would not be able to extract the willpower rune of a fantasy breed fae or source-type life form. Unless there was a situation where the law was stripped like the mother of bloodbath and Fei Qianqiong's blood-toothed cricket. As for the princess's ability to extract the willpower rune from a dead fae or source-type lifeform's body, it would make it easier for Lin Yuan to gather willpower to supply the sacred sword form's sword carries. After all, even if Lin Yuan had a few law crystals now, he would not be able to get them again unless his enemies gave them to him. Otherwise, it would not be so easy to obtain them. If everyone was a type of fae, Lin Yuan felt that he was definitely a production-type fae like the Usnia. Morbius Spirit Lock Spatial Zone and the Sacred Source Life Form, the Sacred Sword Embracing Queen, allowed him to become a top-notch producer. The Sacred Sword form's ability to use willpower and law as an attack method. Lin Yuan could not help but feel that his Sacred Source life form was treating the superior willpower and law as a toy. Moreover, it wasn't just a feeling, but a fact. Just as Lin Yuan was checking on the Sacred Sword-wielding queen, the Sacred Sword-wielding queen opened its eyes and looked at him. The Sacred Sword-wielding queen opened its eyes and looked at Lin Yuan. After the Marrow contract, the Sacred Source life form was like a newborn with super high intelligence. Its understanding of the world was still a blank piece of paper. But when the sacred sword-wielding monarch saw the changing expressions on her contestant's face, she felt that her contestant's brain wasn't that smart. Chapter 573. The sacred sword-wielding queen, a sacred source life form with super intelligence, blinked. It could not help but worry about its future. What if his contestant wasn't very smart? This was a question worthy of careful consideration. The sacred sword-wielding queen struggled for a moment and realized that its contractor was still sizing it up. Its expression changed from astonishment to contemplation. It changed from contemplation to conflict and finally to astonishment. The sacred sword-wielding queen could not help but clear its throat and speak in an ethereal voice. "Master, I have just been born. Please use your will to bestow me with a name." Upon hearing the sacred source lifeform's words, Lin Yuan immediately confirmed that the sacred source lifeform's intelligence was indeed higher than that of ordinary phase. Only lifeforms with high intelligence and the ability to think independently would be obsessed with their own name the moment they were born. It was just like how a lifeform needed a mark and a name to prove itself. Lin Yuan understood why his master, the Moon Empress, had repeatedly emphasized the importance of a marrow contract with a sacred source lifeform with such high intelligence. If he formed a blood contract with the sacred source lifeform, as long as there was a difference of opinion between the two lifeforms with high intelligence like the sacred source lifeform, it was very likely that the two parties would not be able to unify their strength in battle. However, Lin Yuan did not have to worry about this. No matter how high the sacred source lifeform's intelligence was, after the marrow contract, the sacred sword-wielding queen had fused with his soul and was considered a part of his soul. Lin Yuan did not know that he had just summoned his sacred source lifeform. His sacred source lifeform had already thought that he was not very smart. Lin Yuan felt that he was very good at coming up with names. Smart was very smart, so it was called Smart. Chimey was a sound bird and could sing, so it was called Chimey. The spirit-drawing dragonfish was black, so it was called Black. It was simple, friendly, and generous. Lin Yuan looked at the sacred sword-wielding queen's plain white dress and asked, "White, what do you think? White, what do you think?" Sacred source life form, the sacred sword-wielding queen subtly hugged the sword in her arms. When it had fused with Lin Yuan's soul, the sacred sword-wielding queen had digested the memories and knowledge in Lin Yuan's soul. Upon hearing the word white, the sacred sword-wielding queen could not help but have many question marks appear on its head. Shouldn't a name like Bye Bye be given to the kind of white dog that would stupidly pounce on humans and wag its tail happily? In order not to be called Bye Bye by his contractor. The sacred source life form, the sacred sword-wielding queen, hurriedly spoke in an ethereal voice. "Master, I'll call you Pill." At that moment, the newly born sacred source life form, sacred sword-wielding queen, suddenly made up her first plan ever since she was born. Contractor's dumb brain development project. The reason why he named the pill was to treat it as an inspirational pill. By the side of the contestant, he would allow the contestant's brain to become the smartest person in the world. Lin Yuan was taken aback when he heard the sacred source life form's name. Isn't this name a little too ordinary? How could it be better than white? Thus, Lin Yuan gave a friendly suggestion. How about white pills? The sacred source life form, sacred sword-wielding queen, accepted her contractor's suggestion without rejecting it. After all, his contestant wasn't too smart, and he had already decided on the name of the pill. If he still did not accept his contractor's suggestion, it would be disrespectful in the eyes of the sacred sword-wielding queen. That would be too unreasonable. The sacred sword-wielding queen gently clenched her fists, firmly believing that she was here. Her contractor would definitely give her a better name than white pills in the future. In any case, it did not matter what color the pill was, as long as it could make the contestant smarter. It was a good medicine. Lin Yuan had not seen any other sacred source life forms. However, when he thought about the sacred source life form, the hollow crystal mother shellfish, he could confirm that the hollow crystal mother shellfish was not humanoid, but a shellfish life form. In addition, the sword of punishment that he had fused with two sacred source lifeforms was not humanoid, but a tool. Therefore, Lin Yuan concluded that the sacred source lifeform could take any form. Although his sacred source lifeform was humanoid, Lin Yuan realized that it was different from the humanoid form of a myth 2 Fae. The sacred source lifeform, the sacred sword-wielding queen, was completely different from the human form of a myth breed Fae when it reached myth 2. The sacred sword-wielding queen was not corporeal, but a semi-corporeal existence. Suddenly, Lin Yuan remembered that his diamond Fae storage box still contained the two dead dark-type fantasy breed Faes that Endless Summer had given him. These two dead dark-type Faes were when Endless Summer had gone to protect Listen. Endless Summer had brought back the Diamond X/Fantasy 4 Dark-Eyed Scorpion Tiger and the Diamond 8/Fantasy 3 Dark Spirit Eye Tadpole. The bodies of these two dead dark-type fantasy breed Faes were preserved very well. Lin Yuan had not had time to deal with the bodies of the dead dark-eyed scorpion tiger and dark spirit eye tadpole, so he had kept them in the Fae storage box. Now was the right time to test the sacred sword-wielding queen's function in her princess form and the ability of her skirt to extract the willpower rune of the dead fantasy breed Faes. Lin Yuan summoned the dead dark-eyed scorpion tiger and dark spirit eye tadpole from his room. Fortunately, Lin Yuan's room was large enough. Otherwise, if the huge dark-eyed scorpion tiger was summoned, it might really damage the precious jade-textured wood in the room. When the sacred sword-wielding queen saw Lin Yuan summon the two dead fantasy breed Faes, it immediately revealed a pure expression of desire. His face immediately revealed a pure expression of desire, as if he had seen a delicious meal. The sacred sword-wielding queen immediately pointed at the dark-eyed scorpion tiger and dark spirit eye tadpole on the ground and asked Lin Yuan, "Can I eat them?" Her tone and expression were like a child seeing a delicious snack and asking his parent if he could try it. Lin Yuan could not help but be a little speechless. He had previously felt that the sacred sword-wielding queen was playing with willpower and laws. But now, it seemed that the willpower in the willpower rune was not qualified to be played with by the sacred sword-wielding queen. It was only treated as a kind of food. Lin Yuan nodded gladly. Of course. Upon hearing Lin Yuan's reply, the sacred sword-wielding queen carried the sacred sword and walked in front of the dark-eyed scorpion tiger and dark spirit eye tadpole. The sacred sword returned with a flash of cold light and tore open the skin and flesh of the dark-eyed scorpion tiger and dark spirit eye tadpole. Then, the sacred sword-wielding queen's plain white skirt suddenly spread out two clumps of silk. These two clumps of silk followed the wounds made by the sacred sword and drilled into the dark-eyed scorpion tiger and dark spirit eye tadpole's bodies. Chapter 574. Then, the sacred sword-hugging queen tiptoed and lifted her skirt to dance gently. Immediately after, Lin Yuan discovered that the dark-eyed scorpion tiger and dark spirit eye tadpole, which had been injected with the threads, had a dark luster rising from their bodies. This dark luster contained a huge amount of darkness elements. It was as if the long-dead dark-eyed scorpion tiger and dark spirit eye tadpole had been resurrected under the effect of the threads in their bodies. In less than a minute, two wills appeared in these two masses of rising dark energy. These two wills followed the two threads toward the dancing queen. Although they were both related to darkness, the dark-eyed scorpion tiger's willpower was more focused on the endless murderous intent in the dark night. The dark spirit eye tadpole's willpower was more focused on the silence of the long night. Lin Yuan keenly noticed that as the two wills entered the princess's dress along the silk thread, the princess's dress slowly started to have color and faint vein patterns. The dark-eyed scorpion tiger and dark spirit eye tadpole that Endless Summer had brought back were extremely powerful fantasy breed Faes and had been carefully nurtured by pinnacle king-class experts. The Diamond X/Fantasy 4 Dark-Eyed Scorpion Tiger was almost at the level of a fantasy breed Fae. However, the sacred sword-hugging queen's willpower runes in the Dark-Eyed Scorpion Tiger and Dark Spirit Eye Tadpole were quickly absorbed by the sacred sword-hugging queen. In just 5 minutes, the long-dead fantasy breed Dark-Eyed Scorpion Tiger and Dark Spirit Eye Tadpole no longer had any willpower that could be transmitted through the threads. Lin Yuan had been observing the dark-eyed scorpion tiger and dark spirit-eye tadpole and found that after losing their willpower, the rich dark energy in their bodies did not decrease. The corners of Lin Yuan's lips raised. It seemed that the dead fantasy breed phase that had their willpower and energy extracted by the queen's skirt did not hinder the use of their various parts as spiritual ingredients. Lin Yuan shifted his gaze from the dead dark-eyed scorpion tiger and dark spirit-eye tadpole to the sacred sword-hugging queen again. He was stunned by the sacred sword-hugging queen's appearance on the skirt. If the holy sword-wielding queen was dressed in a plain white dress, she would look exceptionally plain and untainted by the mortal world. After absorbing the wills of the dark-eyed scorpion tiger and the dark soul-eye tadpole, the sacred sword-wielding queen's dress had turned a deep black color. The aura of the sacred sword-wielding queen changed completely. Now, the queen's dress was engraved with two wills, making the queen, who was hugging the sacred sword, look like a traveler who was strolling in the night and could not find her way home. The sacred sword-wielding queen's ink-colored dress didn't seem to have that kind of thick ink-colored fabric. Like the night fog, it carried a hazy, ethereal, and graceful ink color. It was like a corner of the night sky, with the silence of the long night. However, upon closer inspection, there was a murderous aura that sent chills down one's spine. It was as if a scorpion tiger was lurking in the night, ready to attack its prey at any time. The sacred sword-wielding queen didn't just change her appearance. Under true data, Lin Yuan keenly discovered that the sacred sword-wielding queen's previous display was. The sacred source element had already changed to the darkness element. However, the star level was still 0. Lin Yuan thought to himself, is the sacred sword-wielding queen's element determined by the wills and laws it absorbs? Lin Yuan shook his hand, and a blue crystal with 2 golden engravings appeared in his hand. This crystal was the law crystal that the mother of Bloodbath had taken from the cold snow pine's body when it had just broken through to Myth 2. Just by looking at the indistinct golden mark, one could tell that the cold snow pine's law crystal should be considered the weakest law crystal produced by a Myth 2 Fae. The cold snow pine's law crystal's cold flame law was also very unorthodox. However, the cold snow pine's law crystal was more complete and had a complete law. The queen, who had just eaten the 2 wills as snacks, looked at the law crystal that suddenly appeared in her contractor's hand. Her eyes widened. When Lin Yuan saw the queen's expression, he did not wait for her to speak and immediately handed over the cold snow pine's law crystal. When the sacred sword-wielding queen received it, she felt that her contractor might not be very smart, but he was simply too good to her. Lin Yuan watched as the sacred sword-wielding queen took the law crystal. After taking the cold snow pine's law crystal, the sacred sword-hugging queen pressed it against her head. She embedded the cold snow pine's law crystal into the crown that did not have any gemstones embedded on it. In an instant, the crown seemed to be ignited with blue ice flames, and the cold snow pine's law crystal released a dazzling, ice-blue luster. The sacred sword-wielding queen's skirt fluttered, revealing the delicate crystal shoes she was wearing. Lin Yuan realized that the ink on the queen's skirt was quickly compressed, and a huge snow pine made of all kinds of runes was carved on the skirt. The pine needles ignited with an ice-blue flame, dyeing the entire skirt in an ice-blue color. The original black color gathered under the cold snow pine's veined patterns like a shadow. Lin Yuan used true data to check and found that the sacred sword-wielding queen's sacred source type had changed from dark type to ice type. It was not ice type or dark type. Lin Yuan was sure that the 2 dark type willpower had not disappeared from the queen's skirt. Even the willpower of 2 dark-type fantasy breed phase could not compare to the cold snow pine's law crystal's law crystal at Myth 2. It could be seen that the queen's sacred source type was determined by the type of willpower that she absorbed. The type of willpower that was more important would determine the queen's sacred source type. Lin Yuan saw that the sacred sword-wielding queen had changed again. Her blue skirt was embroidered with the burning cold snow pine. Her aura had also become abnormally cold. Lin Yuan could not help but feel as though he was playing a costume-changing game. Lin Yuan thought for a moment and took out his remaining 2 law crystals. Since they were just sitting there, he might as well throw them to the sacred sword-wielding queen. the sacred sword-wielding queen swayed her skirt. At that moment, she felt that she was the happiest sacred source life form in the world. Of the two law crystals, one had come from the crow that had ambushed Endless Summer, and the other from Nightmare 6 from the Zheng family's Night Squad. They were both law crystals produced by Pinnacle Dark-type Myth 2 phase. The two golden carvings on them were very eye-catching. The sacred sword-wielding queen embedded Crow's Law Crystal, Night Death's Law Crystal, and Nightmare VI's Law Crystal, Dead Dream's Law Crystal, onto the crown on her head. Chapter 575. Immediately after, Lin Yuan felt that the space in his room was instantly dyed black by the queen's dress. It was like a long night. After another hour, all the law energy within the law crystal was absorbed by the princess's Luo Kun. The sacred sword-wielding queen changed into another appearance. When he looked at the sacred sword-wielding queen, Lin Yuan felt as though he was looking at darkness itself. It was like looking straight into the darkness at the edge of an abyss. However, the queen's dress was now engraved with two dark-type wills and two dark-type laws. Under the boundless night, the queen's dress seemed to sink into a constantly withering, dying, and repeating remnant dream. Under the night sky, the only ice-blue cedar rose from the ground, bringing a bit of vitality to the dead dream world in the darkness. On the branches of the pine tree, a crow and a bat were perched on each side, looking abnormally strange. The three law crystals embedded in the crown on the sacred sword-wielding queen's forehead had also turned pure white. The pure white law crystals flashed with a sparkling substance. Lin Yuan knew that the sparkling and translucent substance was pure nomological energy. Lin Yuan keenly discovered that under true data, the sacred sword-wielding queen had now become a one-star star. However, such a star class increase did not surprise Lin Yuan. Instead, he felt some pressure. How much willpower and laws would the sacred source life-form sacred sword-wielding queen need to nurture it into a high-class existence? Unlike Lin Yuan's pressure, the sacred sword-wielding queen was abnormally satisfied. The feeling of rising stars as soon as it was born was simply too great. However, the sacred sword-wielding queen did not know that after this feast, it would not be so easy to eat such a sumptuous feast again. As for the ability of the sacred sword form, Lin Yuan thought for a moment and felt that he should not experiment with it. He had spent so much to make the dress, and now it was slashed by the sacred sword. Lin Yuan did not know if the sacred sword-wielding queen was willing to bear it, but he definitely could not bear it. No matter how he thought about it, Lin Yuan felt that the sacred sword form's ability and the sacred sword blade were out-and-out prodigal. The sacred sword-wielding queen handed the three pure white crystals containing pure law energy on the crown to Lin Yuan. "Master, this is my leftover trash." Lin Yuan nearly fainted when he heard about his sacred source life form. His sacred source life form was too crazy. "Do you think this law crystal, which contains pure law energy, is trash?" Countless Emperor-class experts and myth breed phase treat it as a treasure. He couldn't even beg for it if he wanted to. However, he recalled the sacred sword-wielding queen's eating method. He suddenly felt that there was nothing wrong with the three pure white crystals in his hand, which contained pure nomological energy, being regarded as the excrement of the sacred sword-wielding queen. Lin Yuan carefully put away the three crystals. Regardless of what the sacred sword-wielding queen thought it was, if the mother of Bloodbath wanted to become a creation breed, it would definitely need this pure white crystal that contained pure law energy. Lin Yuan looked at the sacred sword-wielding queen. She was no longer dressed in white like when he had named her. Instead, it became mainly black. Lin Yuan suggested, "It's not appropriate to call you White Pill now. How about Black Pill?" The sacred sword-wielding queen stared at her contractor in a daze. She suddenly felt that her stupid contractor brain development plan was about to be declared bankrupt. It had only been 2 hours since she had decided on her name, and her contractor had already changed it. The sacred sword-wielding queen did not want to complain about Lin Yuan's naming ability. Compared to White Pill, Black Pill was not inferior. If Lin Yuan could change her name to Brainless Pill, perhaps she would be more useful. Lin Yuan once again left his room and sat on the water rhinoceros leather sofa to watch the tournament duel with everyone else. Everyone could clearly feel that Lin Yuan's aura had changed. Previously, Lin Yuan was a cheerful youth that people would feel very amiable at first glance. Now, Lin Yuan's original foundation was shrouded in a layer of profound mystery. The sacred sword-wielding queen was considered a part of Lin Yuan's soul. After absorbing 3 types of laws and 2 types of willpower, the inscribed laws and willpower on the sacred sword-wielding queen's dress were also affecting Lin Yuan. He used his willpower and law energy to shield him from external detection abilities. When the mother of Bloodbath and Endless Summer, as myth breed phase, realized that they could no longer sense Lin Yuan's spirit chi professional rank. The mother of Bloodbath and Endless Summer quietly circulated the law runes in their bodies and found that they still could not accurately judge Lin Yuan's spirit chi professional rank. It was obvious that Lin Yuan had undergone a huge transformation after entering the house, allowing him to have the ability to shield himself from detection. If anyone else had such a huge improvement in such a short time, Endless Summer and the mother of Bloodbath would find it difficult and unbelievable. However, this had happened to Lin Yuan, and it had happened to him too many times. The mother of Bloodbath and Endless Summer were already used to it. After watching the tournament's matches, Chu Ci said with some reluctance. From the looks of it, the tournament doesn't have the same atmosphere as a live match. It would be great if I could watch a match live. Lu Jie suddenly thought of something and asked. On the second day of the new year, there happens to be an tournament's all-star match. Although the all-star match isn't as formal and entertaining as the tournament, it's a match that all the A-class and B-class clubs participate in. If Chu Ci wants to watch the match live, I can get the tickets, and everyone can go together. Also, the highlight of the tournament is that the audience has a chance to be selected as lucky audience and get the chance to challenge the tournament's celebrity members. Chu Ci was very interested in watching the match live. As a reckless defense-type spirit chi professional, she heard that there was a chance to challenge the tournament's members. Chu Ci's eyes immediately lit up as she said to Lin Yuan, "Big brother, do you want to go? Big brother, do you want to go?" Lin Yuan could not help but laugh when he heard Chu Ci's words. "It's important that you want to go, but you didn't ask me if I want to go." Chu Ci usually called him by his name. Now that she had started to call him Big Brother, Lin Yuan naturally had no reason to refuse. The third day of the new year is the day when Sky City's Star Web private faction territory announces its functions to other rising and veteran factions. It just so happens that there's a day on the second day of the new year. We can go online and watch the tournament's all-star match. Bookmark for easier reading. Chapter 576. Upon hearing that, Chu Ci's face immediately revealed an excited and expectant smile. She stretched out her hand in front of her smiling face and made a, "yeah" gesture to Lin Yuan. When Lin Yuan saw Chu Ci's smile, he immediately smiled warmly, revealing his white teeth. Lu Jie took out his cell phone and said to Chu Ci, "Then I'll go and ask for the front row tickets now." "I'll go and ask for the front row tickets now." After that, Lu Jie dialed the number. Lin Yuan thought to himself. The tournament's all-star match was a grand event that could almost catch up with the tournament finals. There were only 2 days left before the start of the all-star match. Lu Jie could easily get the front row tickets with just one phone call. This made Lin Yuan feel that it was easier to do things with someone around. Soon, Lu Jie hung up with a strange expression and said to everyone, "I've already gotten the front row tickets for the tournament. I've already prepared the front row tickets for the tournament. There are a total of 10 tickets. When the time comes, all of us can sit together." While speaking, Lu Jie was still thinking about how depressed by how sounded on the phone. Is he really depressed? It's almost the new year, so why does he still sound like he's half dead? Does that live streamer called Sparrow Voice Lowly Goddess really have that much magic? After disappearing for so long, she still made Bai Hao think about her day and night. As long as he had a little extra radiance dollars, he would send all of them to the empty live streaming room of the sparrow-voiced lowly goddess. Lu Jia was a little puzzled. How did that damned Sundara Bai Hao become such a bootlicker? The sparrow-voiced lowly goddess's recent disappearances were already faintly comparable to the news of the Radiance 100 sequence members. For example, Zhao Chun's popularity of eating at the royal capital's last buffet restaurant was ranked below the popularity of the sparrow-voiced lowly goddess's disappearance. In Lu Jia's opinion, perhaps the sparrow-voiced lowly goddess's disappearance for a long time was a good thing for Bai Hao. After a long time, Bai Hao might be able to walk out of his current half-dead state. At the side, Hu Quan was commanding the fantasy breed wood-weaving house centipede to devour a completely jade-textured chicken wing wood and spit out completely jade-textured silk threads with wing patterns. However, Hu Quan's attention was always on Lin Yuan's side. Looking at the interaction between Lin Yuan and Chu Xi, Hu Quan could not help but sigh. Others might not know, but Hu Quan knew how many things he had created in order to complete Lin Yuan's idea of the private faction territory's interior. He had just finished making these things and showed them to Lin Yuan. He decided to announce his role as a star web private faction to the other rising and veteran factions on the 3rd. It was equivalent to opening up the star web territory to other factions. Therefore, before that, Lin Yuan had to at least set up the territory's interior. In addition, he still needed to prepare those phases for the territory's internal affairs. In Hu Quan's opinion, such a task was not easy. Under such circumstances, Lin Yuan was still willing to take out a day to watch the all-star match with Chu Xi. It was enough to show how much he cared about her. In the eyes of an old-fashioned man like Hu Quan, caring about a person didn't mean that one had to appear good to that person on the surface. Instead, he was willing to unconditionally take out a lot of time to accompany her when he was clearly very busy. Hu Quan used his hand to flick the wood-weaving house centipede's carapace to stop it from slacking off and continue working. He then summoned the vitality sloth that he had just contracted not too long ago. After being summoned by Hu Quan, the vitality sloth was still a little dazed. It extended its big claws to hug Hu Quan's neck and put its head on Hu Quan's shoulder like a wife, looking a little delicate and timid in the eyes of outsiders. However, the vitality sloth was just too lazy. It closed its eyes and wanted to find a comfortable position to continue sleeping. Hu Quan carried the vitality sloth to the water rhinoceros leather sofa and sat down. The weight of Hu Quan and the vitality sloth pressed a big hole in the water rhinoceros leather sofa. Everyone looked at Hu Quan and was immediately stunned by his and the vitality sloth's posture. What kind of sweet posture is this? When Yu glanced at Hu Quan suspiciously and thought to herself in surprise. Hu Quan is an uncle who usually does handicrafts. Could it be that there's something wrong with his view of love after staying here for too long? That's not right either. Hu Quan seems to read a book usually too. When Yu felt that she should find a chance to see what kind of book Hu Quan was reading. Hu Quan reached out and patted the vitality sloth like he was coaxing a child. Pride of laziness, cast primordial energy flow on the big brother sitting there holding the teacup. Lin Yuan had just picked up the teacup and was drinking Wen Yu's newly brewed Three Treasures tea. However, he suddenly felt a stream of air hit his body, making him full of energy. It was as if he had infinite energy and did not need to sleep at all tonight. Lin Yuan looked up at Hu Quan, only to see the latter winking at him. Kid, with energy, you won't feel overwhelmed when you're busy at night. As soon as Hu Quan finished speaking, everyone fell silent except for Chu Xi. The way they looked at Hu Quan became increasingly strange. Only Chu Xi was a little puzzled by everyone's reaction. She did not understand why everyone was looking at the simple and honest uncle who with such gazes. Hu Quan thought to himself, pride of laziness has cast primordial energy flow. Lin Yuan definitely won't feel sleepy tonight after being cast by his pride of laziness. Furthermore, he won't understand that he won't be energetic in the morning even if he stays up late at night. This way, Lin Yuan can use the time he has to do on Tuesday tonight. At that moment, Hu Quan was still a little reluctant. The vitality sloth's recovery of the contractor's primordial energy was only enough. Only by being busy for a while and taking a nap could he accumulate a little bit of primordial energy. However, when the vitality sloth restored primordial energy to people other than the contractor, it would cause double the consumption. The vitality sloth used up all the primordial energy it had accumulated in the past half a month when it released this primordial energy flow. Hu Quan scratched his head and thought. It seemed that he should also think of a way to increase the vitality sloth's grade. Otherwise, the current silver vitality sloth was really not enough. Even if he did not care about others and only restored his primordial energy, as long as he looked at the notebook, he would still need to sleep at night. However, if the vitality sloth could reach platinum, it should not have this concern. His Class 5 Spirit Craftsman title had not been decided yet. Why don't I paddle happy Hu Quan? At that moment, the holy sword-hugging queen's ethereal voice suddenly sounded in his mind. Master, what do you think of the name Pride of Laziness? Bookmark for easier reading. Chapter 577. Lin Yuan was cursing the vitality sloth's name in his heart. Upon hearing the sacred sword-hugging queen's question, Lin Yuan answered without even thinking. Isn't this name a bit too chinibyu? How is it as nice as your name, Black Pill? The sacred sword-hugging queen originally wanted to seriously discuss the naming issue with Lin Yuan. However, after hearing Lin Yuan's words, the sacred sword-hugging princess immediately did not dare to discuss the name with Lin Yuan anymore. Instead, in the depths of Lin Yuan's soul, she shook her new dress aggrievedly. What if his contestant thought of something strange in the process of their conversation? Then he might have to change his name again. He felt the abundant energy in his body as if he had slept soundly for 2 nights. Lin Yuan praised Hu Quan's contracted vitality sloth in his heart. When Hu Quan saw the way Lin Yuan was looking at his vitality sloth, he hugged the snoring vitality sloth with force and said warily, "Don't worry. You are a creation master. You should know how difficult it is for the vitality sloth to inject vitality flow. Don't even think about doing anything to my big baby sloth in the future." He had originally planned to stay up all night and then take the ingredients he and Lu Jie had chosen together to the Leaning Moon Mountain the next morning. Lin Yuan was originally afraid that he would be rather sleepy the next morning after working hard all night. Now that he had Hu Quan's assistance, he did not need to worry that he would be out of energy tomorrow. Listen and Zhou Luo only returned after 11:00 in the evening. After Listen and Zhou Luo sat down and drank a cup of tea, Listen said to Zhou Luo. Young master, the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce has consumed a lot of resources sold by the Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce. I've only asked Fei Qianxiong to sell some relatively inferior resources that we would lose money over to other forces. After selling these resources, the Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce has begun to transform into luxury resources. It's just that the third lineage of the Zheng family that the Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce relies on has recently stopped pouring resources into the Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce. I heard that Fei Qianxiong, Bai Qingxiong, and Bai Qinghu are very worried. Bai Qinghu has already headed to Indigo Azure City to take the initiative to contact the third lineage of the Zheng family. Bai Qinghu handed the Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce to Bai Qingxiong to manage, but Bai Qingxiong is addicted to wine and pleasure and does not have his mind on the Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce. Fei Qianxiong is handling most of the Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce's matters. After listening to Listen's report, Lin Yuan did not express his opinion but spoke to Listen. Just do it according to your ideas. Lin Yuan did not want to ask. Of Lin, he said. He had just heard when you talk about the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce's recent struggle with the Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce. With the help of Fei Qianxiong, the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce was constantly nibbling away at the Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce's foundation. Listen's talent. Lin Yuan was Lin. Listen, listening, Lin has listening to long had, listen. Listen Lin Yuan heard said. After the Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce absorbed the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce's creation master resources and then gave them to the Zheng family's third lineage, Listen had suspected that his elder's death was not an accident. Lin 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 Liang, Lin Lin, 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 G. As, Lin, Lin, was. By. Listen was sure that everything that had happened to the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce was related to the Zheng family. Understanding the truth had solved Listen's doubts and not. After the doubts and not disappeared, Listen only had hatred for the Zheng family. Young master, I have been secretly developing the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce because you have been asleep. I haven't sold the items mixed with the completely jade-textured wood powder. There is a lot of backlog now. I think it's time to take out these items mixed with the completely jade-textured wood powder. It's just that I don't think we can maximize profits if we sell these luxury items as goods. Therefore, I want to sell these items in the form of an auction. Listen's current idea was largely inspired by Lin Yuan's auction of the Heavenly Maiden Grade Elemental Pearls in the Star Web Store. He found that the pearls, which did not have much effect, could raise the price of Heavenly Maiden Grade Elemental Pearls just because they were rare and beautiful. Moreover, the bidding during the auction was indeed very easy to get people excited. Therefore, Listen wanted to make a brand out of the large number of luxury items that the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce had saved. He would then obtain the highest profits through exquisite packaging and auctions. Upon hearing Listen's words, Lin Yuan pondered for a moment before replying. Since you want to do it in the form of an auction, I wonder if you intend to build a physical auction house for the auction or enter the school on the Star Web? Listen clearly had his own clear ideas. I plan to conduct the auction on Star Web in the form of a live broadcast room. There will be live streamers showing and explaining every luxury item that will be auctioned every 24 hours. The crafting pavilion has been set up by Uncle Hu. The shapes and carvings of every object made by the Class 3 spirit craftsmen in the crafting pavilion are unique. Therefore, compared to bulk sales, this kind of unique luxury item can only be sold at a higher price in the eyes of people who are fated with it. In the beginning, this method might be a little slower. Before the live broadcast room becomes famous, the auction price might not reach expectations due to the lack of people. However, as long as we maintain the live broadcast room for a period of time, I believe that it will definitely develop greatly. I've also found a shop in the royal capital's bustling district offline. I can pick out some of the precious luxury items and auction them under the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce's and the Engineering Pavilion's names. As soon as Listen finished speaking, Hu Quan's eyes lit up. Although Hu Quan had only established the Engineering Pavilion to serve Lin Yuan, he was still very willing if he could make a name for himself. Otherwise, Hu Quan would not have had the idea of establishing the Engineering Pavilion at that time. Hu Quan had also carefully thought about how to make the Engineering Pavilion famous. However, Hu Quan's brain was only suitable for some craftsmanship and lacked a lot of other aspects. Now, Listen's idea was equivalent to directly helping Hu Quan solve this problem. The Engineering Pavilion only needed to continuously produce luxury items, and the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce would take care of everything else. Lin Yuan did not expect Listen's ambition to be so big that he actually wanted both. However, be it the live broadcast auction on Star Web or the auctions in the offline auction house, there were not many items that could hold down the scene. Bookmark for easier reading. Chapter 578. The completely jade-textured wood in Lin Yuan's Spirit Lock spatial zone was still constantly maturing. Almost all of the furniture in the manor's main residence was made of jade-textured wood, and every piece was of high quality. Therefore, there was no need for him to keep the matured completely jade-textured wood in the Spirit Lock spatial zone for the mansion's construction. This also made the completely jade-textured wood something that he could use to exchange for resources. He waved his hand, and 10 huge, completely jade-textured wooden boards appeared at his feet. Lin Yuan said to Listen. Since you're going to hold an online and offline auction, I'll take out some good materials and get Uncle Hu to make some good stuff for you. After saying that, Lin Yuan took out a handful of heavenly maiden-grade elemental pearls with the Cloud Dream Lake Pearls essence and said to Hu Quan. Uncle Hu, what's the effect of embedding your heavenly maiden-level elemental pearls into objects made of completely jade-textured wood? Even though Hu Quan had gotten used to using completely jade-textured wood to make objects, he was still able to use it. However, Hu Quan could not help but narrow his eyes at the sight of so many completely jade-textured wood glowing with a jade-like luster. However, when she saw the heavenly maiden-grade elemental pearls in Lin Yuan's hand, she was stunned. Hu Quan could not help but want to ask Lin Yuan if he was born in a golden nest and how he could take out so many good things. How can an old man like me control myself when you're like this? When Hu Quan saw the rare spiritual materials, his spirit craftsman's soul trembled with excitement. At the same time, many design ideas appeared in his mind. He hurriedly said, even if you find a random person to press elemental pearls into a sculpture made of completely jade-textured wood, people will still want to buy it. Max out the luxury effect. But you can rest assured with the elemental pearls and completely jade-textured wood in my hands. My craftsmanship is definitely worthy of this appalling luxury. Many question marks appeared on Listen's head. In order to reach an agreement with Lin Yuan and make the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce a rising faction, he had come up with the idea of selling objects made of completely jade-textured wood powder. But why did Lin Yuan suddenly give him such a precious thing that could suppress the situation after he came up with the idea? If he really had a completely jade-textured wood sculpture inlaid with heavenly maiden-level elemental pearls, then why would he have to worry about the early stage of operations and publicity? All of these problems were easily solved. With such a level of suppression, the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce had imperceptibly risen to the level of a veteran faction. The Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce didn't have anything that could compare to the veteran factions except for these items. But with these items, the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce could put on a show that only veteran factions could. Listen had been very busy recently. He was busy recruiting and expanding the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce's staff, which had been suppressed by the Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce, and he had received the Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce's resources. In particular, Listen needed to properly handle the fair-related resources bought from the Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce as soon as possible. Listen had not planned on returning to the manor tonight. However, the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce had received a letter that forced Listen to return to the main residence and tell Lin Yuan about it in person. Listen took out a letter from the diamond face storage box and handed it to Lin Yuan. Young master, this letter is a little strange. It should be for you. Please take a look at it yourself. Lin Yuan took the letter from Listen's hand with some doubts. He took a look and realized that there were no words on the envelope. Moreover, the letter had already been opened. It was clear that Listen had opened it and read its contents. When he opened the letter and saw the contents, he frowned. There was only one sentence in the letter. In the coastal sea outside Indigo Azure City, Jiao Hansong of the Zheng family's third lineage, and Zheng Kaiyuan of the Night Patrol's sixth lineage. When he saw this message, he pondered for a moment and handed the note in the envelope to Wen Yu. Then he asked Listen. Do you know who sent this letter? Listen replied. This letter was found in the body of a silver-ranked messenger pigeon. A silver messenger pigeon landed on a tree in the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce's courtyard this evening. It then spat out the note in its body and prepared to fly away. At that time, Brother Zhou happened to see this scene, so he caught the silver messenger pigeon. Lin Yuan pondered for a while and had a basic judgment of this matter. The messenger pigeon was a kind of communication fey. Due to the existence of the star web, there were very few opportunities to use this kind of communication fey. Generally, it was only used when sending secret information between factions. The messenger pigeon also had a nickname among the major factions, the anonymous messenger pigeon. The messenger pigeon's communication level was extremely high. As long as it was not the messenger pigeon that took the initiative to spit out the message and someone else wanted to forcefully obtain it, then the messenger pigeon's stomach would wriggle and destroy the message in its abdomen. Lin Yuan deduced that with the messenger pigeon's speed, it would take at least 9 days to fly from Indigo Azure City to the royal capital. Therefore, this letter was written by someone not long after this incident had happened. Since he had revealed his identity to Guard Envoy C, he had asked Guard Envoy C to keep this matter a secret. As a result, the feud between him and the Zheng family had not spread, and only a few witnesses knew about this matter. These people included the 2 guard envoys, Duan He, and the Indigo Azure Guard captain. Lin Yuan felt that these people would not be so bored to do such a thing. Therefore, only one faction could know so clearly about this matter. Lin Yuan turned to look at Wen Yu. It seems like the Zheng family's interior isn't as clean as it looks on the surface. There are surging undercurrents underneath. Wen Yu spoke softly. Young master, the contents of this note are basically the same as what I have investigated. Nightmare 6 is indeed part of the Zheng family's night patrol. There are a total of 9 members in the night patrol, and they follow the Zheng family's 3 young masters. This Nightmare 6 is a member of the night patrol who follows the Zheng family's 2nd young master, Zheng Kaiyuan. He can be considered Zheng Kaiyuan's protector. Looking at the handwriting on this note, if the person who wrote this note is the person who wants to tell us the news, then the person who wrote this note should have a very poor constitution. From the tip of the pen, it can be seen that this person's hand doesn't have much strength when writing. Wen Yu then carefully checked the handwriting on the letter again and used her hand to make a few strokes on the paper. She felt that apart from the next stroke, the rest of the strokes were written at a higher position than ordinary people. It was as though the hand was holding something to write. Bookmark for easier reading. Chapter 579. Lin Yuan did not particularly care about this letter and this slip of paper. He was not interested in knowing who was behind the note. Regardless of whether the owner of this note was an enemy or a friend, the Zheng clan was bound to be an enemy. The owner of this note wouldn't have sent him this message for no reason. If he really had some ulterior motive, he would come looking for him again in the future. All he had to do was deal with the myriad of changes by remaining unchanged. Due to the relationship between the Zheng family and the Zheng family's 3rd lineage, Lin Yuan had not blamed the Zheng family's main family for the 3rd lineage's attack on Listen. However, the 2nd young master of the main branch of the Zheng clan had already sent an Emperor Realm expert to deal with him. In that case, the enmity between Lin Yuan and the Zheng family's main family would be formed. Lin Yuan would not show any mercy to people or factions that had dispatched Emperor-class experts to kill him. Furthermore, he still had Princess waiting for him to use the willpower in the willpower rune and the law crystal to nourish her. Lin Yuan asked Wen Yu. How much do you know about Zheng Kaiyuan? Wen Yu thought for a moment and said. Zheng Kaiyuan is considered a rather special existence in the Zheng family. He is the disciple of the Pinnacle Class 4 Creation Master, Miao Qi. Even though the Pinnacle Class 4 Creation Master Miao Qi doesn't only have one disciple, Zheng Kaiyuan, Miao Qi treats Zheng Kaiyuan with exceptional importance. At the same time, Zheng Kaiyuan's mother, Miao Ji, is also a core member of the top faction, the Miao family. It was because Miao Ji married the current family head of the Zheng family that the Zheng family, which was originally the weakest of the 3 families in Indigo Azure City, became the true 3 families today. The Pinnacle Class 4 Creation Master Miao Qi and Zheng Kaiyuan's mother are siblings. Apart from addressing Miao Qi as teacher, Zheng Kaiyuan can also address Miao Qi as aunt. When Lin Yuan heard her words, his fingers gently tapped on the water rhinoceros leather sofa. Zheng Kaiyuan actually involved a top force. Speaking of top-notch forces, they were a whole level higher than the veteran forces. It could be considered a true colossus. For example, the Gao family that Gao Feng belonged to had only gained the recognition of other top-notch forces a few years ago after developing the deep-sea resources, rising from an established force to a top-notch force. The Miao family had been a top-tier force for nearly 30 years, and it was obvious that they had a much richer foundation than the Gao family. The Zheng family's 2nd young master, Zheng Kaiyuan, actually had the Miao family's background. Compared to the other veteran forces' descendants, he could be considered a noble son. I remember there are 3 direct descendants of the main family of the Zheng family. Since Shen Kaiyuan is a rather special existence in the Zheng family, then the other two, upon hearing Lin Yuan's words, when you suddenly thought of this period of time after knowing that something had happened to him. When he was flipping through the records of the Zheng clan's master in the Hidden Moon Pavilion, he found some clues. His eyes lit up. The Zheng family's first young master is the son of the previous Zheng family head, who is the current Zheng family head's elder brother, before Miao Ji married the current Zheng family head. He is extremely talented in combat and is highly regarded by the Zheng family head. The Zheng Miao family's Miao is not his mother, but his not Miao family's mother. It's said that third young master Zheng's mother died after giving birth to third young master Zheng. Third young master Zheng wasn't born with a disability when he was young. It's just that no one knows why he's been sitting in a wheelchair all this time. Young master, do you think the words on this note were written by the Zheng family's third young master? After saying that, Wen Yu stuck out her tongue awkwardly, feeling that her judgment was too arbitrary. How could she guess based on the handwriting alone? Lin Yuan listened to Wen Yu's introduction of the Zheng family's three direct descendants and clicked his tongue. The relationship between the members of such wealthy families was really complicated. Lin Yuan had poured so many precious luxury resources into Listen because he had plans to attack the Zheng family in business. The Zheng family, a veteran faction, mainly operated in the direction of luxury resources. Although Lin Yuan did not care about the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce's daily operations, he had decided with Listen on the business direction of the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce. No matter how rich the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce was, it still had to penetrate the Zheng family's business empire bit by bit through the medium of the Iron Wall Association. As for the Miao family, Lin Yuan already had a good idea. If Sky City wanted to develop, it would always have to offend the veteran and top factions in the process. The Zheng family would not be the first veteran faction. If the Miao family made a move on his side, it would not be the first top faction. No matter what, the vengeance that should be avenged must be avenged. When you have time, help me investigate an emperor-class expert called Duan He. Upon hearing that, Wen Yu took note of Lin Yuan's request seriously. After talking about business, Lin Yuan found that Chu Si had fallen asleep on the sofa. Lin Yuan picked up Chu Si as he had done when she was young and carried her to her room in the mansion. He put her on the bed, took off the slippers, and gently covered her with the quilt. Just as Lin Yuan was about to go out, he suddenly remembered that Chu Si had the habit of waking up at night and had always been afraid of the dark. Lin Yuan took out a 5 fortune ranchu from the spirit lock spatial zone, placed it in a porcelain basin, and placed it on the head of Chu Si's bed. The black-back mountain boar ornament, which was made of completely jade-textured wood, lit up after coming into contact with the spirit chi released by the spirit siphon goldfish. Under the illumination of this jade-textured luster, Chu Si slept soundly with a blissful smile hanging on the corner of her mouth. After sending Chu Si back to her room, Lin Yuan also started to work hard. The mother of Bloodbath and Endless Summer also returned to their rooms to work hard to improve their strength. Lu Jia went to the training room to familiarize himself with the transformed insect queen through actual combat. Lin Yuan logged into Star Web and started to sweep through the rare life form pavilion in order to build the internal environment of Star Web's private faction territory. Lin Yuan's goal was very clear. He searched for the two plant phase, the starlight grass and the floating cloud flower. The starlight grass and the floating cloud flower belonged to the more expensive plant phase. Even though they did not have any specific use, just their appearance was enough to sell for a high price. Lin Yuan tried to choose the floating cloud flowers and starlight grasses of higher quality. In the end, he bought 36 bronze/elite floating cloud flowers and 108 bronze/elite starlight grasses. It was not that there were no bronze/flawless floating cloud flowers and starlight grasses. However, Lin Yuan felt that it was too much of a loss to buy the bronze/flawless floating cloud flowers and starlight grasses. Just a small difference in quality, and the price had increased by more than 20 times. Of course, among these elite floating cloud flowers and starlight grasses, Lin Yuan also tried to choose the high-grade bronze ones. After a round of selection, none of them were lower than Bronze 7. First update, seeking recommendation votes and monthly votes. End of this chapter. Chapter 580. After buying these floating cloud flowers and starlight herbs, he had purchased all the fays needed to build his private territory. However, he planned to continue looking and see if he could find a suitable fay for Zhou Luo's third willpower rune. While searching, Lin Yuan thought that Zhou Luo's luck was really good. He had actually discovered a mud lizard. The willpower contained in Zhou Luo's third willpower rune was compatible with this mud lizard. Furthermore, the rotten mud lizard was an earth-poison dual-elemental fey that had mutated from the mud lizard and was very rare. It was one of those fays that could only be found after passing this village. The rotten mud lizard was a fey with the earth and poison attributes, and its poison damage could enhance Zhou Luo's pitiful attack methods. The rotten mud lizard didn't have a dragon species fey bloodline and couldn't evolve into a dragon species fey. However, in the process of evolution, the mud lizard had a certain chance of elementalizing its body. In terms of evolution, the mud lizard wasn't inferior to a dragon species fey. When he had fought in the Star Web promotion duels, the Dragon Gate Guild Club member Chen Hongfeng's main fey had been a gold huge-tailed swamp lizard. However, Chen Hongfeng's giant-tailed swamp lizard had evolved from a swamp lizard, not a rotten swamp lizard. Otherwise, Chen Hongfeng's actual combat ability would have increased by another level. The mud lizard had been hanging on the Rare Life Form Pavilion for a whole day. The Star Web's Rare Life Form Pavilion had plenty of people who made a living by sweeping items and reselling some fays and spiritual materials to earn profits. The mud lizard had been hanging there for a day. Logically speaking, it should have been swept away by someone. However, this mud lizard was an exception. This was because the fixed price set by the mud lizard was not radiance dollars. Instead, it was a relatively unorthodox spiritual material, sea willow branch, which required 50 kilograms. This made it impossible for the people who made a living by sweeping up goods on the Star Web to earn a living from the price difference to buy this mud lizard. After all, he couldn't go and find another 25 kilograms of sea willow branch just for this mud lizard. If the mud lizard was swept away by someone else when he returned, wouldn't the sea willow branch end up in his hands? For a spirit material like the sea willow branch that no one wanted, it would be impossible for him to live on after it had fallen into his hands. Without hesitation, Lin Yuan made a deal with a fixed price. Previously, Lin Yuan would have to search for the sea willow branch that this person had requested to trade. However, during the group welfare auction, Master Duanli had used a fortune-dripping sea willow as a bargaining chip. He only needed to cut the fortune-drop sea willow's head in a while, and he would have the 25 catty sea willow branches. After the transaction, he logged off Star Web and sat in his room, preparing to read for a while waiting for Ostrich Logistics to deliver the supplies he had purchased. At that moment, Lin Yuan's phone rang. Lin Yuan took a look and realized that the person calling him was Gao Feng. Lin Yuan could not help but think to himself. He had just finalized the deal with Gao Feng today. Could something have happened to Gao Feng? When Lin Yuan picked up Gao Feng's call, he heard Gao Feng's exasperated roar. Lin Yuan, you're really pissing me off. When Lin Yuan heard Gao Feng's angry roar, he was a little confused. Why was he so angry at night? Could it be that Gao Feng found out that his surname wasn't actually Gao, and that he wasn't a core disciple of the Gao family? Before Lin Yuan could ask what was wrong with Gao Feng, he heard Gao Feng's words pour out like beans from a bamboo tube. Lin Yuan, let me tell you, I, Gao Feng, have never been bullied like this since I was young. Damn the Aquarium of Bliss, I only asked a few questions. How dare these people? When Lin Yuan heard Gao Feng's words, his expression suddenly became strange. He seemed to know why Gao Feng was suddenly so angry. Why did you go to the Aquarium of Bliss in the middle of the night? When Lin Yuan said this, he heard the sound of teeth grinding from the other end of the phone. Gao Feng didn't answer Lin Yuan's question. Instead, he gave an irrelevant answer. Instead, he said, Lin Yuan, didn't you ask me what was my goal in establishing the marine fey breeding base? I didn't think about it before, but I have now. I want to fuck up the aquarium of bliss. The exasperated Gao Feng was about to continue scolding the aquarium of bliss for a minute when he heard Lin Yuan's indifferent voice. Were you kicked out of Star Web's private territory by the aquarium of bliss? When Gao Feng heard that, he felt a chill on his back and asked in surprise. Are you a fortune teller? This has only happened for less than 10 minutes. How did you know? Lin Yuan secretly raised his brows. He had guessed correctly. The Gao family was a top-tier force, and they were also developing resources in the deep sea. They were the target of the Blissful Sea clan, a veteran force. If Gao Feng visited the Blissful Sea tribe as the only direct descendant of the Gao family, he would definitely be treated as a VIP by the Blissful Sea tribe. The only people in the Blissful Sea tribe that could make Lin Yuan think of provoking Gao Feng were the attendants in Star Web's private faction territories, who would kick people whenever they wanted. When Lin Yuan thought about how Gao Feng was complaining to him in the middle of the night, he felt that he had to comfort Gao Feng. Therefore, Lin Yuan said, "That's right. I've also been kicked out by the Blissful Oceanic clan. Now, I can't even enter their Star Web private territory." Just as Lin Yuan finished speaking, he suddenly heard Gao Feng go silent for a long time before he started to laugh non-stop. When Lin Yuan heard that, countless black lines immediately appeared on his forehead. Is it so funny? Then, Lin Yuan listened to Gao Feng rambling about the marine fey breeding base's planning and the direction of the marine fey breeding. As he listened, Lin Yuan sighed silently. Gao Feng was indeed a core descendant of a top-tier faction. Gao Feng's ability wasn't inferior to Gao Feng's status. At that moment, Lin Yuan suddenly heard a delicate yell from Gao Feng's phone. "Gao Feng, you damn brat. Didn't you promise me to sleep before midnight every day? It's already past 2, and you're still not sleeping. It's the new year, and you're still making me angry. Aren't you going to wake up that damn pig father of yours and let him teach you when to sleep?" After this delicate yell, Lin Yuan heard Gao Feng say softly with some embarrassment, "Good night, brother. If there's anything, we'll talk tomorrow." After speaking, Gao Feng hung up the phone. Lin Yuan clicked his tongue. Gao Feng's upbringing was too strict. Suddenly, Lin Yuan recalled that Gao Feng had mentioned that it was already past 2 in the morning. Lin Yuan lowered his head to look at the time on his phone, and he couldn't help but feel his scalp go numb. It was simply horrifying, and he actually accompanied a man on the phone for 2 hours. What is going on? In less than 20 minutes, Ostrich Logistics had delivered all the items that Lin Yuan had bought on Star Web. Lin Yuan took the items and headed straight for the Spirit Lock Spatial Zone. However, as soon as Lin Yuan entered the Spirit Lock Spatial Zone, he noticed that the phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree was burning with a resplendent reddish-gold flame. A cry that was like a celestial tune echoed throughout the entire Spirit Lock Spatial Zone. Second, more requesting monthly votes and recommendation votes. End of this chapter. Chapter 581. When Lin Yuan heard this fairy-like cry, he immediately looked at the golden nest formed by the phoenix perching parasol tree's branches. The golden bird's nest formed by the branches of the phoenix perching parasol tree seemed to be brewing a gorgeous sunrise. The moment the resplendent light rose like a sunrise, it covered the bright reddish-gold flames burning among the phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree's branches and leaves. A cat with 3 tails was squatting beside the snow-white Elysium Pure Land. Wagging its tail, it looked expectantly at the sunrise that was about to rise above the nest. Her face was filled with happiness from the bottom of her heart. At this time, the kitten with 3 tails twitched its ears, sensing that someone had appeared behind it. She immediately turned around and started running. In just a few steps, she had scurried into Lin Yuan's embrace and spoke in a childish voice. "Yuan, Chimey is about to wake up." When Lin Yuan heard Genius' childish voice that was filled with happiness and anticipation, he placed Genius on his shoulder. He rubbed his clever little head and said, When Chimey wakes up this time, it will undergo the most thorough transformation in its evolution. As he spoke, he looked in the direction of the golden nest. He discovered that the rising sun-like radiance had covered his vision, making it impossible for him to see Chimey's figure within the radiance. Chimey's grade was about to advance to Fantasy 3. Apart from anticipation, Lin Yuan was more worried. In essence, Chimey was a sound bird that couldn't even be considered a fae. Chimey had received Lin Yuan's ability, and its body had been injected with a huge amount of pure spirit qi to evolve. This meant that every step that Chimey took was pioneering the sound bird's lineage. Every step he took was an exploration in the epic of life that was filled with thorns and obstacles. For an existence like Chimey that had evolved step by step from a low-level life form, it was extremely difficult for it to raise its quality from a fantasy breed. If he had not coincidentally obtained the phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree, which was suitable for Chimey to improve its quality, he would not have been able to do so. Even if he had so many resources in his hands now, he did not dare to guarantee that he could upgrade Chimey to Fantasy 3 at this moment. The phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree could increase the quality of avian fays and purify their bloodline. There was also a certain chance for the avian fays bloodline to mutate toward the Wan phoenix species. This allowed Chimey to use the opportunity of advancing to Fantasy 3 to completely confirm the bloodline in its body. It could be said that this hurdle was indeed the biggest hurdle in Chimey's evolution history. Once they crossed it, they flapped their wings and soared to the 9th heaven. Genius intelligence was extremely high, so it could naturally understand what Lin Yuan was saying. Genius immediately tensed up and asked anxiously, "Lin Yuan, will Chimey be as painful as last time when it evolves?" Genius still remembered the painful cry that Chimey had let out when it was evolving into a twilight starbird after advancing to a fantasy breed. Since Lin Yuan said that this was the greatest metamorphosis in Chimey's evolution, Genius was very worried about Chimey. Lin Yuan said hurriedly, "Chimey's evolution process might be very painful, but the possibility of an accident happening is very small. It is very rare for a fantasy breed fae to evolve its bloodline and increase its quality. After a fae becomes a myth breed, it will need to undergo the world cleansing every time it increases its quality and face the danger of being annihilated at any moment. Therefore, during the process of reforging its bloodline, Chimey will only have to suffer some pain at most." After hearing Lin Yuan's words, Genius was finally at ease. It lay on Lin Yuan's shoulder and stared at the golden nest without blinking. Lin Yuan couldn't help but lament that Genius and Chimey had a really good relationship. At that moment, the rising sun instantly turned into a ball of dense luster that spread out. Chimey's figure was finally revealed. The cloud patterns on Chimey's azure blue feathers were completely revealed, and even the stars that were faintly discernible in the cloud patterns were flickering intensely. All of a sudden, Chimey's cry became abnormally painful, and the pleasant sound was like a cuckoo weeping blood. After the mournful cry, Chimey's body was like a small sun that was enveloped by a layer of resplendent sunlight again. However, even though this ball of sunlight was dazzling and covered Chimey's figure, it couldn't hide the blood mist that surged out from the sunlight. The blood mist in the sunlight caused Genius to be so worried that its small claw involuntarily popped out. It left a deep mark on Lin Yuan's spirit qi clothes on his shoulder. Lin Yuan's heart tightened, but he didn't have the slightest idea. Lin Yuan knew that everything that was happening to Chimey was a necessary process for its bloodline to evolve. It was just like how Genius Foundation was just 100 questions beast. In the future, when Genius evolved into a fantasy breed or even Fantasy 3, it would have to go through the same process as Chimey. The layer of resplendent sunlight that enveloped Chimey looked abnormally beautiful with the contrast of the phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree's golden leaves. However, Chimey's mournful cry didn't stop for a moment. Lin Yuan keenly noticed that Chimey's mournful cry suddenly carried a trace of special pressure. This pressure was similar to the one that Blackie had emitted when it had awakened its flood dragon species bloodline. However, the lingering charm of the pressure was very different. At the same time, the pressure that Chimey emitted was much purer than the pressure that Blackie had emitted. Lin Yuan's eyes lit up as he immediately thought that this should be because Chimey had been perching on the phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree. The one phoenix species bloodline in its body had awakened. An avian fae awakening the one phoenix species bloodline in its body could be said to be a great opportunity. It was just like how a fish fae had a chance to awaken a flood dragon species bloodline under certain circumstances. If a flood dragon species fae evolved again, there was a trace of a chance that its bloodline would evolve into a main dragon species. If the one phoenix species bloodline evolved again, it might evolve into a main phoenix species. Just as Lin Yuan thought that Chimey was about to awaken the one phoenix species bloodline in its body and complete its evolution, something unexpected happened. All of a sudden, something unexpected happened. As Chimey wailed in pain, the pressure and charm it emitted changed. A kind of bloodline lingering charm that belonged to Chimey burst out from its body. The lingering charm of Chimey's bloodline appeared very weak under the pressure of the one phoenix species bloodline. However, under Chimey's will, this bloodline that belonged to Chimey refused to be devoured by the one phoenix species bloodline. Instead, it used the power of a sparrow to clash with the one phoenix species bloodline. Lin Yuan immediately understood Chimey's intention. Chimey wanted to devour and assimilate the one phoenix species bloodline that it had obtained from the phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree and make it a part of its own bloodline. Upon sensing Chimey's persistence and the changes in its body, Lin Yuan immediately thought, "This is bad. I'm begging for monthly votes and recommendation votes." End of this chapter. Chapter 582. Chimey was using its will to change the evolution of the bloodline in its body. To a large extent, it was equivalent to interfering with its own evolution. In the ball of light that wrapped around Chimey, Lin Yuan seemed to vaguely see Chimey's body being torn and deformed by the Wan Feng bloodline in its body. It was as though it was being kneaded into a twisted meatball. Lin Yuan looked at Chimey's body being pulled and twisted into a meatball, and his heart suddenly tightened. His thoughts froze all of a sudden. Given Chimey's current physical condition, it should have long lost consciousness due to the intense pain. What was happening now was that Chimey's subconscious was leading the sound bird bloodline in its body to devour the Wan Feng bloodline. Lin Yuan suddenly remembered that when Chimey had just evolved into a meteor bird in the Xia region's Fei store, it had been standing on his ear and chirping. Although ordinary people could not understand Chimey's chirping, Lin Yuan and Chimey were connected by a contract, so he could understand the meaning it had conveyed at that time. "Lin Yuan, look at my piercing voice. Chimey's singing has become better, and it can even protect Lin Yuan and genius." Lin Yuan did not take the meaning of Chimey's chirping to heart. After all, he had not been sure if he could become a combat class spirit chi professional. However, as early as when Chimey had evolved into a twilight starbird, Lin Yuan had found that Chimey had been very stubborn about the unorthodox sound type in its sound bird bloodline. Otherwise, when Chimey had evolved into a fantasy breed, it would have completely transformed into a light type fae. It would not have preserved the sound type in its body and become a sound and light type fae. Chimey's stubbornness had been preserved until now when it came to the choice of bloodline. It still stubbornly chose to choose the sound bird bloodline that originally existed in its body. In order to preserve the sound bird bloodline, it had frantically chosen to use the sound bird bloodline to devour the Wan Feng bloodline. In the face of Chimey's stubbornness, Lin Yuan could only support it as a contractor. Lin Yuan had always treated Chimey as his fae but as his family. Therefore, during the evolution process, Lin Yuan could not use his contractor identity to change Chimey's subconscious choice. Otherwise, he could circulate his spiritual power as a contractor and order Chimey, which was subconsciously, to stop the sound bird bloodline from devouring the Wan Feng bloodline. Instead, it guided the Wan Feng's bloodline to devour the sound bird's bloodline in order to successfully complete its evolution. Lin Yuan anxiously waved his hand and activated the pure land of bliss in the spirit lock spatial zone. The white gravel glowed with a sheep-fat jade-like luster, and a bright luster gushed out from between the gravel. These lustrous lusters were like pure white fireflies that flew out from the pure land of bliss. They constantly gathered at the light blob that Chimey had evolved into. It was to nourish and repair Chimey's body, which had been kneaded into a meatball. However, even with the pure land of Paradise's ability to recover damaged origins, it could only ensure that Chimey's body wouldn't be torn into pieces by the intense resistance from the Yuan Feng bloodline. However, it could not completely heal Chimey. Genius had already leaped from Lin Yuan's shoulder to the ground. It looked at Chimey, who was inside the sphere of light, with concern. Its blue eyes were already bloodshot and red. Genius wanted to ask Lin Yuan about Chimey's situation several times, but it saw that Lin Yuan was activating the pure land of bliss to heal Chimey. Genius didn't dare to ask Lin Yuan as it was afraid that Lin Yuan would be distracted. It could only look at Chimey inside the sphere of light with bloodshot eyes. Its front paws were placed together as though it was praying that Chimey could tide over this crisis. The pure land of Paradise's ability to recover damaged origins had been in a stalemate with the Yuan Feng bloodline for 15 minutes. Lin Yuan realized that although the Sound Bird's bloodline was being forced back by the Yuan Feng bloodline at the start, Morbius' exclusive skill, the pure land of Paradise, had healed it for a period of time. Chimey had subconsciously allowed the Sound Bird bloodline in its body to wear down the Yuan Feng bloodline. Now, the Sound Bird bloodline had actually faintly assimilated a portion of the Yuan Feng bloodline. This gave Lin Yuan hope. It seemed that Chimey's subconscious intention of letting the Sound Bird bloodline devour the Yuan Feng bloodline could be realized. Lin Yuan immediately started to rummage through the amber button-shaped diamond face storage box for spirit chi crystals. When he had enhanced the Jasmine Lily to Platinum/Fantasy 3, there were only 71 spirit power crystals left. Lin Yuan had taken out another spirit chi crystal to help the insect queen recover from its injuries. Thus, before he had fainted in the dimensional rift, he had only been left with 70 spirit chi crystals. In addition, the Spirit Lock spatial zone had produced 2 new spirit power crystals while he was unconscious. Therefore, Lin Yuan now had a total of 72 spirit chi crystals. He took 20 of the 72 crystals and threw them into the resplendent light sphere that was wrapping around Chimey. Since Chimey wanted to use its Sound Bird bloodline to devour the Yuan Feng bloodline, the only possibility was when Chimey became a gold/fantasy breed. He could only succeed if his body recovered to its peak condition. As the 20 spiritual power crystals were being eroded by the energy in the ball of light, the 20 spiritual power crystals disappeared. The massive and pure spiritual power in the spirit chi crystal erupted and surged into Chimey's body, which had been pulled into a meatball by the Yuan Feng bloodline. With the infusion of spirit chi from the 20 spiritual power crystals and the pure land of bliss's ability to restore damaged roots, Chimey's body instantly glowed with new vitality. Although Chimey no longer let out violent cries, it could still be vaguely seen from the ball of light that its body was constantly deforming under the confrontation of the two bloodlines. Time ticked by. Just as Lin Yuan faintly felt that the spiritual power in his body was no longer enough to activate the pure land of bliss and was about to remove the spiritual power imprint on his body, suddenly, an unusually soft and clear sound echoed from the light. Upon hearing this clear sound, Lin Yuan felt as though he was bathing in the clearest sunlight. He saw the endless blue and the gurgling stream not far away. The breeze, the flowing clouds, the water droplets, the grass, and the morning dew that was just about to disperse. The purest and most beautiful sounds in nature were fused together at this moment. They were not even 1/10 as pleasant as this clear sound. Accompanied by this clear sound, the leaves of the phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree, which preserved hundreds of mid-grade strange flames, flashed in an instant. The mid-grade strange flames sealed in each leaf had different characteristics, which determined the color of the flames. The hundreds of different colored flames seemed to turn the phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree into a golden immortal tree under the 7-colored aurora. Just as this resplendent sunlight merged with the aurora-like halos emitted by the hundreds of mid-grade strange flames, wings that were more dazzling than auroras flapped in the ball of light. Bookmark for easier reading. Chapter 583. Once again, Lin Yuan was shocked by the miraculous life epic during the phase evolution process. Chimy's body, which had been pulled into a meatball in the ball of light, had once again turned into a blue bird. This time, the feathers on Chimy's head might not have grown much longer, but they were more curly than before. Chimy's feathers had also become even more azure. If the blue color of Chimy's feathers had been the purest blue color in nature, however, Lin Yuan could no longer find any words to describe the blue color of Chimy's feathers now. It was because the blue color of Chimy's feathers seemed to come from the deepest part of one's soul. It was as though the blue color came from the deepest part of one's soul. However, after looking at Chimy's evolved appearance, Lin Yuan could not help but raise his brows. Since when did Chimy evolve so plainly? Just as this thought appeared in Lin Yuan's mind, clouds instantly lingered on Chimy's azure feathers. Another clear chirp that was like the moistening of spring rain echoed. The feathers also changed from azure to gilded due to Chimy's chirp. The gilded color was like the radiance of the warm sun in the middle of the night. At that moment, a few purer golden-veined patterns appeared on the feathers on Chimy's back as compared to the other gilded feathers. It was as if these lines were the warm sun of the 3-9 scorching suns themselves. When Chimy flapped its wings, the golden patterns on its back were like suns. It was as though a rising sun was about to rise above the cloud patterns on Chimy's wings. At the same time, Chimy's sparrow-shaped tail changed shape. Chimy's body was originally half the size of a palm, but its suddenly lengthened tail was already as long as Lin Yuan's arm. Chimy's short sparrow-shaped tail turned into 8 elegant tail feathers. Each tail feather was the same color as its wings and was covered with gorgeous cloud patterns. The ends of the tail feathers were dotted with star imprints, and when they fluttered, it was as though they were dragging a galaxy across the starry sky. Upon seeing this scene, Lin Yuan was certain that Chimy had used its sound bird bloodline to completely devour the Luan Feng bloodline. Otherwise, Chimy would not be able to maintain the appearance of a blue bird if it did not circulate its energy. Instead, it should have always looked like this. If Chimy had advanced to a fantasy breed and evolved into a twilight starbird, it would have been like the stars in the clouds appearing at dawn. Now, Chimy could be said to be the sun will illuminating the world and overturning the galaxy. He used Morbius True Data to check Chimy's attributes. Fey name, Qingyin Luang, Spirit Species, Peacock/Luan, Fey Grade, Gold, 110, Fey Type, Sound/Light, Fey Quality, Fantasy III Skills Frowny Face Broken Jade Sound, fires a gigantic musical note with the sound of jade shattering towards a target. The sound of jade shattering has a certain interference effect. At the same time, after the gigantic musical note is attacked, it will shatter into 10 spiraling sonic spikes. Bathing light, the body is bathed in clear sunlight. The sunlight can quickly recover the life force that the body has expended. Sunlight ray, emits all kinds of rays from the sun. The rays will cause negative weakening to the target. At the same time, the sunlight ray can increase the plant phase activity when shining on it. Absolute nirvana light retains only a trace of the body's vitality and seals it in the sun wheel of the wings. The rest of the vitality will be burned into sunlight energy. Before the sunlight energy in the life disappears, the body will be immune to most physical and elemental damage. Exclusive skill Frowny Face Clear Sky, after the crisp chirp of a bird, the clouds will disperse, and the sun will be summoned. The sky will be clear, and the darkness will disperse. Radiant body, rapidly absorb the sun's power. A large amount of sun energy will gather in the body to form the radiant body. He discovered that Chimy's level had indeed evolved to Gold I/Fantasy 3 after he invested 20 Spirit Chi crystals. Chimy's name had also evolved from the original Twilight Starbird to Qingyin Luang. The Luan was in front, and the sparrow was at the back. Chimy had used its sound bird lord bloodline to suppress and devour the extremely noble Luan Phoenix bloodline among avian fays. Not only had Chimy taken a path in evolution that no one had taken before, but even its bloodline had taken a path that no sparrow species fey could take. When Lin Yuan carefully looked at Chimy's abilities, his eyes could not help but widen. He found that after Chimy's bloodline evolution, its abilities had undergone a huge change. He remembered that Chimy's normal ability, Sound Thrust, was to shoot 3 sharp thorns formed by sound at a designated target. Now, Chimy's first ability had become Sound Shattering Strike. Sound Shattering Strike could shoot a huge rune with a jade-shattering sound at a target. This ability itself did not have any highlights, as the huge rune with sound could be easily resisted. However, the effect of Chimy's huge rune with the jade-shattering sound was not to attack but to control. After controlling the huge rune and shattering it, the 10 spiral sound thrusts hidden in the huge rune were the hidden killing intent of the jade-shattering strike. The changes in Chimy's normal ability had already given Lin Yuan a pleasant surprise. However, when he saw the elite ability, Bathing Light, Lin Yuan frowned slightly. Previously, Chimy's elite ability wasn't Bathing Light, but Scattered Light. Chimy could scatter scattered light rays from its body and let the light rays have a burning and controlling effect. Although Scattered Light's burning and control effect wasn't strong, it had indeed increased Chimy's attack methods. Now that Scattered Light had become Bathing Light, its original attack and control ability had become an endurance ability. However, in terms of recovery ability, Lin Yuan was a healing-type spirit chi professional. Now, Lin Yuan's healing-type Fae, the Jasmine Lily, had reached Platinum/Fantasy 3. Although the Jasmine Lily was becoming more and more unorthodox on the healing-type Fae path, it was still considered Lin Yuan's strongest Fae. However, it had to be said that the Jasmine Lily was now Lin Yuan's strongest Fae. The Jasmine Lily was enough for Lin Yuan to effectively heal most of his Faes. As for the silver ability, Sunlight Ray, it was not much different from before. However, there was a new sunlight ray behind the sunlight ray. When it shone on a plant Fae, it could increase the plant Fae's activity. When he saw this ability, he immediately thought of his contracted red thorn. Not only red thorn, but even the sea of flowers that red thorn spawned were also plant Faes. Increasing the plant Fae's activity was equivalent to increasing the plant Fae's regeneration ability. This could also have a good linkage with the sea of flowers that red thorn spawned. Bookmark for easier reading. Chapter 584. When Chimy used Sunlight Ray to attack an enemy unit, if there was a sea of flowers spread out by red thorn beside the enemy unit, then, the Sea of Flowers' overall combat ability would also increase under the effect of Sunlight Ray's increased activity. When Lin Yuan checked Chimy's new Gold/Fantasy breed ability, Nirvana Light, Lin Yuan subconsciously patted his forehead with his hand. He glanced at Chimy, which was flying toward him happily and was about to land on his ear, and shook his head helplessly. It was fine that Chimy stubbornly insisted on the sound bird bloodline during the evolution process, but when did it become so reckless? Nirvana Light could burn all the vitality in the body into sunlight energy, which was equivalent to providing Chimy with a means to exchange vitality for explosive damage. When used together with the exclusive skill, Radiant Body, it could burst out with a multiplied attack effect. In addition, before the sunlight energy in Nirvana Light disappeared, Chimy could be immune to most physical and elemental damage. This allowed Chimy to use Nirvana Light and enter Radiant Body, greatly increasing its defensive ability. This allowed Chimy to ignore the enemy's damage, to display the greatest attack effect. Of course, Nirvana Light's damage immunity did not include spiritual damage and poison-type abilities. However, it was enough to be immune to most physical and elemental damage. After seeing Nirvana Light, Lin Yuan suddenly felt that Bathing Light, which he had previously thought was useless, did not seem so useless anymore. Bathing Light could make up for Nirvana Light and squeeze out Chimy's vitality to the last trace. Together with the Jasmine Lily's healing ability, it could increase Chimy's recovery speed. It was also very likely to allow Chimy to carry out a second wave of attacks in a match. As for Chimy's exclusive skill, Radiant Body, there was no change. However, Clear Sky had changed a lot in Lin Yuan's opinion. Previously, the exclusive skill, clear sky, was nothing more than making the dark clouds retreat and the sky clear, which had a strong restraining effect on water-type attacks. But now, apart from making the sky clear, it could also summon the morning sun. When it was a silver/fantasy breed, clear sky would only let the sky reveal the light of stars at night. Now that Chimey used clear sky, it could let the sky bloom with sunlight. Even if Chimey fought at night, bathing light could still be used. At the same time, he secretly thought that Chimey's exclusive skill, clear sky, seemed to have become somewhat special after its evolution. True data showed that the exclusive skill, clear sky, could summon the morning sun, but it was naturally impossible for Chimey, a gold/fantasy breed. At present, the best Chimey could do was to summon sunlight at night. However, if Chimey became a myth breed, it would be able to use its exclusive skill, clear sky. Could he summon the sun at night and turn night into day? As for clear sky's new effect, darkness retreat, it made him scratch his head. It seemed like the exclusive skill, clear sky, had a restraining effect on dark-type phase. Lin Yuan had already checked through Chimey's abilities and exclusive skills, so he had a rough idea of them. However, the actual combat effect was obviously unable to be displayed in the Spirit Lock spatial zone. If he asked Chimey to use Nirvana Light and its exclusive skill, Radiant Body, to test its attack ability in the Spirit Lock spatial zone, it would not be able to do so. It would be equivalent to Lin Yuan tearing down the Spirit Lock spatial zone. Lin Yuan felt that he was not a husky, and he would never do something like tearing down a house. Chimey flew to Lin Yuan's ear and affectionately pecked his hair before rubbing its little head against Lin Yuan's cheek. When Chimey was rubbing against Lin Yuan's cheek, it saw Genius looking at it worriedly with red eyes. Chimey immediately jumped onto Genius's little head. It used its delicate beak to help Genius comb the soft and dense fur on its head. Then, Chimey immediately became like the chatterbox in the past and cried out. However, Chimey's chirping had been bird chirping previously, but it was now speaking fluent Mandarin. Lin Yuan. Lin Yuan. Lin Yuan. Smart. 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 Lin Yuan. Lin Yuan. Lin Yuan. Smart. 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 Lin Yuan had previously realized that Chimey always liked to chirp 6 times no matter what. Even if Lin Yuan and Chimey were telepathically connected, Chimey's subconscious chirping was obviously not using its brain. Lin Yuan could not use his spiritual energy to clearly capture the meaning of Chimey's chirping. Lin Yuan had always treated Chimey's chirping 6 times as Chimey's mantra. However, now that Chimey could speak, Lin Yuan finally understood. It turned out that Chimey had always treated its chirping 6 times as its mantra. 3 times were for Lin Yuan's name, and the other 3 times were for Genius's name. Lin Yuan originally thought that if Chimey still could not speak properly after evolving into Fantasy 3, he would definitely teach it a good lesson. But now, Chimey could communicate like a normal person. Furthermore, no sound fetish would be able to reject Chimey's human voice. Not only was Chimey's human voice pleasant to listen to, but it was also filled with spirit chi and had a lively flavor. It made people abnormally relaxed after listening to it, as though they were sitting on the grass and looking at the blue sky while bathing in the sunlight. Lin Yuan extended his finger toward Chimey, and Chimey immediately flew onto his finger. The plume on its head leaned forward and scratched Lin Yuan's palm as it spoke. Lin Yuan, Chimey had a lot of dreams when it was asleep. 80% of the dreams were about you and Genius. After saying that, Chimey suddenly felt a little guilty and didn't say the rest of its words. Even if it was beaten to death, Chimey would never say that the remaining 20% of its dreams were about it live streaming on Star Web. Although Chimey had successfully evolved and was on a brand new path that no Fae had taken, be it in terms of bloodline or evolution direction, Lin Yuan still felt abnormally worried. When he recalled Chimey's evolution process, Lin Yuan still felt abnormally worried. Lin Yuan looked at Chimey and very seriously asked a question that he had always wanted to ask. Chimey, Why do you care so much about the sound bird bloodline in your body? When Chimey heard Lin Yuan's words, its small brain subconsciously recalled a rainy evening. It had been packed in a cardboard box and had been brought home by a youth. At that time, the youth had used a towel to wipe the feathers on its body that had been drenched by the rain. Then, he had revealed his small white teeth and said to Chimey, "Don't be discouraged, little fellow. Don't be discouraged, little fellow. I'll call you Enin, okay? I'll definitely teach you a song." The youth's encouragement was the first ray of light in Chimey's bird life. It was also the brightest ray of light that Chimey had ever seen. Even when Chimey had seen the resplendent sunlight during its evolution, it couldn't be compared to the dazzling light that the youth in Chimey's heart had given it. This light was the light of redemption that Chimey had seen when it had failed to evolve and wasn't even qualified to be a commodity. It had been packaged up and sold like trash. This light of redemption had given Chimey a home in the cold world. Chimey once again landed beside Lin Yuan's ear and said softly, "No matter when, Chimey wants to be able to stand on Lin Yuan's ear and sing for Genius and Lin Yuan like in the past. Sing the song that Lin Yuan and Genius like. Sing the song that Lin Yuan taught me over and over again." The second song. Seeking recommendation votes and monthly votes. End of this chapter. Chapter 585. Upon hearing that, a smile bloomed on Lin Yuan's face. "Chimey, I remember you wanted me to teach you how to sing before you fell asleep. It just so happens that I also have a song to teach you." Then, Lin Yuan started humming. Upon hearing that Lin Yuan wanted to teach it to sing, Chimey's eyes immediately lit up. Drops of dew, staining the sleeves. The bright sun is charming, gently untying the lotus boat. The reeds are flourishing, the sparrows chirping. By the white stone stream, the setting sun chases the stream. But the golden wind and jade do make the journey too long. Our hearts are linked, and we conspire. The road ahead is rugged, and we climb, and we guard together. 100 years of dusk for you, to the day. Leaning against the mountains and facing the water, the scenery looks old. And your beauty surpasses all, the mountains and rivers are all in one's eyes. Chimey jumped from Lin Yuan's ear to his shoulder. It tilted its head and carefully listened to every note in Lin Yuan's song. As a sound bird, Chimey had always only had one person as its first teacher, and that person was Lin Yuan. However, ever since Chimey had started live streaming on Star Web without discussing with Lin Yuan, it always felt like it was doing something guilty when it came to learning how to sing. Therefore, every time Lin Yuan sang, it could not tell him that it wanted to learn songs. It could only secretly rely on the sound bird's powerful talent for tunes to secretly learn Lin Yuan's songs. However, the feeling of secretly learning to sing was completely different from standing on Lin Yuan's shoulder and listening to him take the initiative to teach it. Chimey could not help but wonder if Lin Yuan would have any thoughts when he received the surprise box from it next year. However, Chimey had a premonition that its sparrow-voiced lowly goddess identity might not be able to be concealed at any time. Chimey did not remember how long it had slept to evolve its bloodline, nor did it know if the fans who listened to it singing on Star Web missed it. When Chimey had been singing on Star Web previously, it had only been singing. It had never said a sentence that was not a song. All of a sudden, Chimey had the thought of greeting the audience in the live streaming room the next time it live streamed. But before Chimey could think of a reason, a voice suddenly rang out. Chimey was completely attracted by Lin Yuan's song. As a sound bird, Chimey had a strong talent for music that was engraved in its genes and bloodline. Naturally, they also had their own understanding and preferences for music, so they could easily distinguish between good and bad songs. The song that Lin Yuan was teaching him now was very similar to the first song that Lin Yuan had patiently taught him over and over again. The more Chimey listened, the more excited it became. It had already started to flap its wings and dance around in the air along with Lin Yuan's humming. Genius had also climbed onto Lin Yuan's shoulder and laid down quietly, as though it could not get enough no matter how much it laid down. enjoying the rare tranquility of time. Genius and Lin Yuan had made a trip through the dimensional rift and survived. However, being able to survive inside the dimensional rift was akin to having a new lease of life. This caused Genius's heart to mature quite a bit. After a calamity, he saw his sleeping partner, Yin, wake up. He felt extremely happy. But at that moment, Genius suddenly noticed 2 scratches on the spirit chi clothes on Lin Yuan's shoulders. Genius immediately realized that these 2 scratches were caused by its sharp claws that had accidentally extended out from Chimy's pink flesh pad when it saw Chimy's body being mashed into a ball of flesh. Genius immediately acted like a child that had done something wrong and used its flesh pad to gently rub the skin on Lin Yuan's shoulders that had scratches under the spirit chi clothes. While rubbing, Genius lowered its head and opened its mouth to take 2 gentle breaths of air. It imitated how Lin Yuan had taken care of it and chanted in its heart. Lin Yuan, Genius will blow on it, and it will not hurt anymore. Lin Yuan stopped after humming the song in his memory. Lin Yuan's singing wasn't considered very good, but it was much better than ordinary people. Furthermore, Lin Yuan had a habit when listening to songs. He would firmly remember the lyrics of the songs that he liked to listen to. Therefore, Lin Yuan would be able to roughly remember the lyrics of the songs that he knew. There might be a few lines that he couldn't remember. However, Lin Yuan would complete the lyrics according to the melody and meaning of the lyrics. After listening to Chimy's voice, Lin Yuan felt that if Chimy's voice was used to sing, it would be most suitable to sing ancient songs. The wording of ancient songs was gentle and elegant, just like fragrant tea paired with thin wine. It was fresh and tranquil, but it also had a trace of meaningful charm that wasn't strong. Lin Yuan already knew that Chimy liked to sing, but he now realized that Chimy loved to learn songs. Lin Yuan decided to teach Chimy one of those ancient songs that he had an impression of after a period of time. As a sound bird, it was very easy for Lin Yuan to teach Chimy. Chimy only needed to sing it once, and it would basically learn the entire song. When Lin Yuan saw Chimy flapping its wings excitedly, he asked with a smile, "How much did Chimy remember? How much did Chimy remember? Do you need me to sing it again?" In response, Chimy flapped its wings and landed on the cinnabar sweet osmanthus's branch. As the cinnabar sweet osmanthus had been nourished by massive and pure spiritual power in the spirit lock spatial zone and had been planted in the pure land of bliss, it had also received a trace of Earth's grace's baptism. This caused the cinnabar sweet osmanthus, a plant fey that didn't have many flowers, to be filled with vermilion osmanthus flowers. Once Chimy landed, it was like the last straw that broke the camel's back. It caused the vermilion osmanthus flowers, which were barely hanging on the branch, to rustle down and form a colorful red flower rain. A faint osmanthus fragrance filled the air, and the sweetness in the fragrance made the air a little gentle. At that moment, Chimy learned the tune that Lin Yuan had just sung and started to sing softly. Upon hearing Chimy's singing voice, Lin Yuan felt that he was instantly attracted by Chimy's singing voice. It was as though a painting had appeared in front of him. Or perhaps, Lin Yuan himself seemed to have walked into the painting and become the person in the painting who was looking at the scenery. Lin Yuan seemed to have seen a young lady in front of him, rowing a boat under the beautiful sun. Singing elegant love songs, living by picking lotuses, bathing in spring and autumn together, day and night. Waiting for a person to return by the white stone stream, praying for the tender feelings of the east wind to make the jade couple. Lin Yuan was already used to Chimy's singing voice, but he was still shocked by Chimy's evolved voice. Now that Chimy had learned the human voice and was singing, it wasn't how much its voice had improved or how much its singing technique had improved. Just the emotion between the words was enough to make the whole song more lively. If Chimy had been comparable to those masterclass singers in Lin Yuan's previous life in all aspects before its evolution, if Chimy's singing voice was in Lin Yuan's previous life, music fans would probably call it the #1 songstress in the universe. Even the trisomorphs would become fond of flowers and peace after hearing Chimy's singing voice. However, at that moment, Lin Yuan's heart suddenly thumped. He saw that the cinnabar Osmanthus haworthia, which was originally growing on the cinnabar sweet Osmanthus, had actually fallen from the tree trunk in the rain of vermilion flowers. This scene reflected in Lin Yuan's eyes, and he suddenly felt as though his lifeblood had been shaken off. Lin Yuan quickly walked forward and used true data to check the cinnabar Osmanthus haworthia's attributes. You're tuning in to the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.